Chapter 742. Fei. He. The two immortal king puppets carefully observed Fei He and seemed to have some impression of him. Their gazes swept past Fei He and landed on Ning Fan. Killing intent surged in their eyes. People who aren't of the Big Dipper clan, kill. The moment the two puppets showed their killing intent, a sense of impending doom rose in Ning Fan's heart. Without any hesitation, Ning Fan waved his hand, wanting to summon the ghost face and escape. He was no match for an immortal king who had undergone the fourth tribulation. The only thing he could do was to escape. Just as he was about to summon the ghost face, an old but dignified voice descended from the sky. The voice instantly turned into two blood-red shackles that shackled the Black King and White King, preventing them from attacking Ning Fan. This was the ability to summon the law with words. As soon as Fei He heard the voice, his face immediately filled with reverence. He cupped his fists at the Destroyer Star Palace and said, "Subordinate Fei He greets the venerable sovereign." Ning Fan did not dare to be negligent. He cupped his fists and said, "Disciple Ning Fan greets the venerable sovereign." At ease. Another dignified voice resounded. It carried a powerful divine ability, causing Fei He and Ning Fan to unclench their fists on their own accord. It was still the same ability to summon the law with words. "Fei He, why did you bring this young man into the blood world? This young man is the champion of this year's grand competition. His aptitude is the best among his peers. He has a request that he would like to ask the venerable sovereign personally." Fei He replied respectfully. Then, he transmitted his voice to Ning Fan. "Go and meet the venerable sovereign yourself and ask for the pill formula of the corpse extermination pill. Don't make any mistakes." Fei He naturally did not need to be polite to Ning Fan. His tone carried a hint of threat. The first step of his plan required the corpse extermination pill. However, the pill formula was in the venerable sovereign's hands. Fei He was not stupid enough to ask for it personally. To obtain the reward from the venerable sovereign, one would either succeed or fail. If he succeeds, he would be rewarded. If he fails, he would infuriate the venerable sovereign and he would not be able to escape death. Fei He did not have the courage to take the risk. That was why he wanted Ning Fan to meet the venerable sovereign personally to ask for the pill formula. If he infuriated the venerable sovereign, the one who would suffer would be Ning Fan instead of him. Besides, Ning Fan had the death exemption order. Even if he could not obtain the pill formula of the corpse extermination pill. With Ning Fan's presence, Fei He would never ask the venerable sovereign. "Does he want to see me?" The Shadi's voice was emotionless. After that, there was a long silence. After a long time he said, "Ning Fan, you can enter the palace alone." "Yes." Ning Fan clenched his fists tightly, feeling slightly nervous. He could finally meet the Shadi. Fei He stared at Ning Fan with a meaningful look. Then, he transmitted his voice to Ning Fan, reminding him to remember the reward for obtaining the pill formula of the corpse elixir. Of course, Ning Fan would not forget to ask for the reward. However, what he wanted was not the corpse elixir formula, but the longevity jade. With a sway of his body, Ning Fan turned into a ray of traveling light and flew down from the White Lotus. He passed by the Black and White Kings and flew towards the army-vanquishing Star Palace. As soon as he entered the Star Palace, an ancient restrictive force violently pressed down on him, erasing his escaping light. When Ning Fan landed on the ground, he had no choice but to walk on foot. When he stepped on the floor of the Star Palace, a bone-chilling coldness spread from his feet to his entire body, nearly freezing him. This is the coldness of the baleful aura. Ning Fan gritted his teeth. His eyes flashed with red light, slightly blocking the coldness of the baleful aura under his feet. Along with the coldness of the baleful aura, there was also a world-sealing force that sealed both the Cauldron world and the Yuanyao world. Even Ouyang Nuan could no longer sense the situation in the outside world. As for the profound Yin world, it was not sealed because it was a medium-class world. World sealing. Ning Fan's eyes turned serious. After walking for about 2 hours, Ning Fan finally arrived at the outer palace. He stepped on the heavenly staircase and walked towards the inner palace. After a few more hours, he finally arrived at the inner palace. Outside the inner palace, there were 14 puppets. The weakest of them was at the immortal venerable realm of the first tribulation of eternity. The strongest one was even at the immortal king realm of the fifth tribulation of eternity. Including the 2 immortal king puppets outside the star palace, there were 16 immortal king puppets guarding this small star palace. The 14 puppets outside the inner palace looked at Ning Fan with blank expressions. They did not make things difficult for him. Ning Fan walked past the 14 puppets and entered the inner palace. The inner palace was very quiet. There were 49 palace lanterns with purple flames. A blood-red figure was sitting on the throne above. His body was wrapped in 7-colored light. Ning Fan could not see his true appearance. Ning Fan could only roughly see that the other party was a white-haired old man in blood-red robes. This person's chi was ferocious and cold. Ning Fan could not get within 10,000 zhang of him at all. Disciple Ning Fan greets the venerable sovereign. Ning Fan cupped his fists and bowed again. All of a sudden, a spirit sense that was filled with the smell of blood swept towards Ning Fan. When he sensed that there was a force in Ning Fan's body that was resisting his senses, the blood-robed old man nodded with satisfaction. Ming Hai didn't lie to me. You have indeed obtained the recognition of the altar and inherited this innate ghost face. After inheriting this ghost face, you will be the 8th generation young emperor of the Slaughter Palace. His tone was still dignified, but it was less cold and indifferent than before. It was more kind. When the 7-colored light dispersed, the blood-robed old man took the initiative to reveal his true appearance and said to Ning Fan with a smile, "You don't have to be so restrained. Since you have obtained the recognition of the altar, even I will be courteous to you. I have heard about your achievements from Ming Hai. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I definitely wouldn't believe that a mere first-step cultivator could actually cultivate the Fu Li ancestral blood and refine the young emperor ghost face at the void fragmentation realm. Fu Li. Many demon ancestors and demon saints of the Northern Dipper immortal domain were conferred the title of Fu Li after they died. Those who can obtain the Fu Li ancestral blood are definitely not mediocre. The one who obtains the ghost face will be the 8th generation young emperor." Ning Fan's eyes were filled with astonishment. Then he looked at the Shah Di in disbelief. Even though he did not know what a young emperor was, he could hear that this young emperor had an extraordinary status in the Slaughter Palace. He had already imagined countless situations where he would exchange words with the Shah Di, but he had never thought that the Shah Di would talk to him so amiably. Is this white-haired old man really the Shah Di in front of me? Young Emperor Ghost Face, Fu Li Ancestral Blood, Northern Dipper Immortal Domain. The Shah Di's words contained a lot of information which made Ning Fan unable to comprehend all of it in a short time. I heard that you have mastered the first form of the heaven-seizing seal? The Shah Di asked with a smile. Summon the ghost face and show me the heaven-seizing seal. Since the Shah Di had given him an order, Ning Fan naturally did not dare to neglect it. Even though displaying the heaven-seizing seal would consume all of his magic power, what difference would it make in front of the Shah Di? He turned his palm over and the silver ghost face appeared all of a sudden. All of a sudden, his black hair turned into silver strands that fluttered without wind. He changed his hand seals continuously and completed them in an instant. 7 layers of golden palm imprints stacked on top of each other and merged into one. Ning Fan did not release the palm imprints because he was still a little cautious. He knew that this shattering army star palace was not a place where he could behave atrociously. In this star palace, he would not display the complete palm imprints in order to avoid breaking the tables and chairs and provoking the Shah Di. Innate ghost face, heaven-seizing seal. Finally, another young emperor has arrived. The Shah Di nodded satisfyingly. He ordered Ning Fan to disperse the palm imprints and keep the ghost face. Then yes. According to Fei He, you came to see me because you want to ask for something. I know what Fei He has always wanted. Besides, your cultivation base in the Tao of Corpse is indeed not weak. The pill formula of the corpse extermination pill will benefit you greatly. I can give it to you as a reward. However, whether it's a blessing or a curse, you will have to bear it yourself. As soon as he finished speaking, the Shadi waved his hand. Traces of blood light condensed into a jade slip and fell on his palm. What was recorded in the jade slip was the pill formula of the corpse extermination pill. Ning Fan raised his head. Without looking at the jade slip, he took a deep breath. That pill formula was what Fei he wanted, but it wasn't what he wanted. From the very beginning, there was only one thing he wanted. Only this thing could prolong Ouyang life. If it wasn't for this thing, he would not have risked his life to come here. What this disciple wants is not the pill formula of the corpse extermination pill but the longevity jade. As soon as Ning Fan said that, the smile in the Shadi's eyes turned into a fierce expression. You said you want the longevity jade? His tone was as cold as ice. A feeling of certain death rose in Ning Fan's heart. Ning Fan knew that he had successfully angered the Shadi. However, he did not understand why the Shadi who had always been kind to him would become so cold after he asked for the longevity jade. Are you sure you want the longevity jade? The Shadi asked coldly. Please give me the jade. Ning Fan lowered his head and clenched his teeth. It's impossible for me to give you this jade. In exchange for a reward, no matter what you want, this old man will satisfy you for the sake of you being a young emperor. An aura force that felt like the collapse of the heavens descended on Ning Fan. That was the aura force of the Shadi under his rage. It was not something he could withstand at all. His muscles and bones were crushed bit by bit. Soon, his white robe was dyed red with blood again. It was as if 10,000 sharp blades were cutting his body. The pain was unimaginable. It was as if the Shadi only needed to release his killing intent to crush him into a bloody pulp. Ning Fan's body could no longer withstand the heavy aura force and was on the verge of collapsing. However, his eyes were as firm as before. This disciple only wants the longevity jade. I'm willing to exchange it for the jade with my token. Ning Fan felt a sharp pain in his chest and coughed out a mouthful of blood. However, he gritted his teeth and waved his hand, taking out Fu Linglong's elder token from the profound Yin world. At the same time, he patted his storage pouch and took out the death exemption order. Then, he raised his eyes and looked at the Shadi in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. The death exemption order of the Wu family and Fu Linglong's elder token. The Shadi's expression suddenly changed. He closed his eyes and lifted his hand to disperse the aura force that was suppressing Ning Fan. Then, he pointed his finger at Ning Fan and a ray of blood light entered his body. In just an instant, all of his injuries were healed. After that, there was a long silence. Ning Fan was extremely nervous. He did not know if he could get the longevity jade by taking out the elder token. He was not sure. He had 10,000 uncertainties. He could not imagine what would happen if he did not get the longevity jade. Without the longevity jade, Ouyang death would be 10 years later. Wait. He was waiting for the Shadi's answer. He knew that the Shadi was certainly considering whether to give him the jade or not. The Shadi's answer was related to Ouyang life. Thus, Ning Fan could not help but feel nervous and attach great importance to it. I still can't give you the longevity jade. In the end, the Shadi opened his eyes and let out a long sigh. An unprecedented sense of helplessness lingered in Ning Fan's heart. He had already used up his last bargaining chip, but the Shadi still could not give him the jade. At this moment, there was only one thought in Ning Fan's mind: Ouyang would die. At this moment, he had almost forgotten the difference in cultivation base between him and the Shadi. His eyes were filled with madness. He took a big step forward and clasped his fists. Venerable Sovereign, please give me the jade. I can't give you the longevity jade. Since you have contributed the token, I will give you a fortune and help you reach the thought fragmentation realm in 10,000 years. I don't want the thought fragmentation realm. I only want the longevity jade. Since you don't want to improve your cultivation base, I will give you 10 trillion Dao crystals. It's enough for all your cultivation expenses before the ancient times. I don't want Dao crystals. I only want the longevity jade. The Shadi heaved a long sigh and said, the first disciple of the medicine sect, Ouyang has an innate medicine body. Her lifespan is less than 10,000 years. She used up the rest of her lifespan to save you. You want to save her by asking for the jade, right? Yes. Ning Fan gritted his teeth. The longevity jade was secretly made by the longevity emperor. There are only 3 pieces in this world. One of them has been destroyed. The other 2 pieces are actually in my hands. Ouyang Nuan's master has searched the entire eastern heaven, but he could never find the longevity jade. What? 2 pieces of longevity jade? Ning Fan's eyes were filled with astonishment. He had never thought that the 2 pieces of longevity jade were in the Shadi's hands. How could he not be surprised? If the Shadi only had 1 piece of longevity jade, it could be explained that the jade meant something to him. That was why he was reluctant to give it to others. If the Shadi had 2 pieces of longevity jade at the same time, he must have spent a lot of effort to find them. The jade must be very useful to the Shadi. Therefore, no matter how Ning Fan begged, the Shadi was not willing to give him the jade. As you expected, this longevity jade is of great use to this old man. The longevity jade is my life-saving treasure. The Shadi said with a sigh. What? Ning Fan's eyes were filled with astonishment. He felt a sharp pain in his heart. If the longevity jade was the life-saving treasure of the Shadi would not give it to him even if he had made a great contribution. The only 2 pieces of longevity jade in this world were in the Shadi's hands. Since the Shadi would not give him the jade, wouldn't Ouyang Nuan die for sure? The longevity jade is the ancient jade secretly made by the longevity emperor. Refining 1 piece of jade can guarantee immortality for first-step cultivators. Refining 2 pieces of jade can guarantee the Tao of second-step cultivators. Refining 3 pieces of jade can guarantee the saint's samsara. The 3rd piece of jade has been destroyed. I have 2 pieces of jade with me. My Tao has yet to disappear. As a matter of fact, 6 million years ago, a strong enemy invaded the blood world. I was severely injured and died. At that time, the young emperor, Fu Linglong, was eager to break through to the eternal ancient realm to replace the Shadi's position. However, she failed because of her impatience. Therefore, I found the longevity jade and survived until today, waiting for the next young emperor to appear. However, even with the longevity jade, my Tao is already close to disappearing. If you don't appear, I will die in another 10,000 years. The slaughter palace will seal itself off from the blood world and live and die with the people of Big Dipper. If I give you a piece of jade, my Tao will certainly disappear within 2,000 years. As soon as he finished speaking, the Shadi closed his eyes tiredly. When he opened them again, he was wearing the same kind smile as before. Young man, if you promise me one thing, I will give you a piece of longevity jade. What do you think? What is it? Ning Fan's heart, which was close to despair, suddenly tightened. You must promise me that after my Tao disappears, you will help me protect the people of the blood world. Don't let anyone invade the blood world. Kill all invaders without mercy. You can do it. The Shadi's smile disappeared. His expression was unprecedentedly serious. This was his last concession. If he gave Ning Fan a piece of jade, his Tao would disappear 8,000 years earlier. He was not afraid of death. He should have died 6 million years ago. The reason why he was still alive was to protect the blood world. Be it 2,000 years or 10,000 years, before his Tao disappears, there would most likely not be another young emperor. He had waited 6 million years for Ning Fan's arrival. If he does not give Ning Fan a piece of longevity jade, he was afraid that it would be difficult to convince him to protect the blood world. If a venerable sovereign loses a piece of jade, his Tao will disappear within 2,000 years. I don't know how far I can cultivate in 2,000 years. I also don't know if I have the ability to protect the blood world. However, if the venerable sovereign really gives me a piece of longevity jade, I can swear that I will protect the blood world with my life when the venerable sovereign disappears 2,000 years later. If the blood world falls, I will certainly die in front of the people of the blood world. Ning Fan's expression was extremely solemn. In 2,000 years, he might be able to cultivate to a level stronger than the Shadi and become the 8th generation Shadi to protect the blood world from destruction. 2,000 years might only be enough for him to reach crossing truth and shedding emptiness. He might not even be able to reach crossing truth. He could not guarantee that he would be able to protect the blood world. The only thing he could do was to agree to the Shadi's request and use his life to exchange for Ouyang Nuan's life. His eyes were filled with determination and no hesitation. There was a kind of Tao rhyme that said that he would not regret even if he had to die 100 times. It was slowly solidifying. Vaguely, Ning Fan somewhat understood what his Tao was. There was only one word for his Tao: stubbornness. Because of stubbornness, he was impulsive. Because of stubbornness, he was resolute. Because of reluctance to lose, he had to hold everything that he cared about tightly in his palm and hold on to it in his heart. For the sake of protecting the warmth behind him, he could follow the heavens, go against it, and even seize it. For the sake of the stubbornness in his heart, he could be a god, a demon, or even a devil. As long as Ouyang Nuan can break free from this tribulation, he was willing to protect her with his own body. The Shadi looked at Ning Fan, whose eyes were filled with determination. His expression was solemn. Then he suddenly punched his chest and coughed out a ray of blood light. That blood light slowly turned into a piece of crystal-clear white jade that floated in front of Ning Fan. The moment the Shadi removed the jade, his appearance became even older and his qi began to become lifeless. You can take the longevity jade. Remember the oath you made today. Since I've already given you the jade, I won't give you anything else. This is the rule of my slaughter palace. Rules can't be broken. I can give you the pill formula of the corpse liberation pill. It's not valuable. Since you killed the young emperor of my slaughter palace for me, it's not too much to give it to you. After giving him the longevity jade, the Shadi raised his hand and gave Ning Fan the jade slip containing the pill formula of the corpse liberation pill. Ning Fan casually kept the pill formula of the corpse liberation pill and kept the longevity jade. After taking the jade, the date of the Shadi's Tao dissipation was brought forward by 8,000 years. The Tao dissipation had nothing to do with one's bone age or heavenly tribulation. Apart from saints, no one could stop the Tao dissipation of a second-step cultivator. Even the 2 pieces of longevity jade could only delay the Tao dissipation. The Shadi's Tao dissipation was brought forward in exchange for Ning Fan's oath. Ning Fan, on the other hand, obtained the longevity jade by sacrificing his life and death with the blood world. Ning Fan did not have a bad impression of the Shadi. Instead, he had a good impression of him. A person who was willing to sacrifice his life to protect others, even if he was a villain, he could not be that bad. Venerable Sovereign, may I ask what kind of existence the young emperor is in the Slaughter Palace? What is the relationship between the Slaughter Palace and the Northern Dipper Immortal Domain and the Northern Dipper Immortal Sovereign? Who was the one who invaded the blood world 6 million years ago? Ning Fan asked several questions that were in his mind. After obtaining the longevity jade, he felt slightly relieved. There were some questions that he had to clear up. Since he had decided to guard the blood world, he had to figure out the origin and enemies of the blood world. At the same time, he had to figure out what a young emperor was. He had to know how many benefits and troubles this identity could bring him. The young emperor of the Slaughter Palace was probably the same as the crown prince of the Eastern Palace in the mortal world. On the surface, he seemed to be glorious, but in the dark, there were countless people who wanted to kill him. I'm done. Wash up and go to sleep. Chapter 743. Oh, have you heard of the Big Dipper Immortal Domain and the Big Dipper Immortal Emperor? Shadi was slightly stunned. When he looked at Ning Fan again, the way he looked at him was completely different. Even though he had mentioned the Northern Dipper Immortal Domain several times, he did not think that Ning Fan understood the profound meaning of those 4 words. After all, within the past 4 days, there were only a few people who knew about the Purple Dipper Immortal Domain, let alone the Purple Dipper Immortal Domain's predecessor, the North Dipper Immortal Domain. Now, it seemed like he had underestimated Ning Fan. Ning Fan actually knew such a secret. I once encountered a life and death tribulation. During the tribulation, I heard people talking about the Big Dipper Immortal Domain and the Big Dipper Immortal Sovereign. Ning Fan answered honestly. lying in front of an old monster like the Shah-D would be seen through at a glance. Oh, you were lucky enough to enter the life and death tribulation? No wonder you know these secrets. You must have borrowed the power of the life and death tribulation to dream back to ancient times. The three tribulations of the mortal tribulation are life and death tribulation, boundless tribulation, and awakening dream. Your luck isn't bad. Experiencing the life and death tribulation is very beneficial to you. The Shah-D sighed as he recalled the past. May I ask, venerated sovereign, what is the relationship between my slaughter palace and the Northern Dipper immortal region? Ning Fan inquired. We'll talk about this later. First, let me tell you about your identity as the 8th Young Emperor. The position of Young Emperor is extremely respected in the Slaughter Hall. If I die, and you've already broken through to the eternal ancient realm, you can temporarily take over the position of Young Emperor and lead the Slaughter Hall. If you reach the 6th tribulation and become an immortal emperor, you will be able to inherit the position of Emperor Shah. If I were still alive, the young emperor would not have any special privileges. If this old man falls, the young emperor who has yet to break through to the eternal ancient realm will not have any special privileges. In that case, my identity as a young emperor is temporarily useless. Ning Fan was speechless. The dignified young emperor of Killing Palace, the crown prince of Eastern Sky, turned out to be just an empty title. He didn't have the status of an elder to use, and an elder had the power to summon 100 true immortals. That's right. If I hadn't perished and you hadn't broken through to the primordial realm, then the title of young emperor would have been useless. On the contrary, it will bring you endless death. As a young emperor, even if you have the death exemption order, there is no guarantee of your safety. The Massacre Hall's laws allow the hall's cultivators to assassinate a young emperor under any circumstances. You don't have to bear any responsibility and will even be rewarded handsomely. If an outsider were to kill the young emperor, the Massacre Hall would not help the young emperor. After all, if the young emperor can't even defend against an attack of this level, he wouldn't be qualified to be the Emperor of Death and protect the bloodline realm. The young emperor doesn't have any special rights. How can he be killed so easily? You can kill your own people, but you can also kill outsiders? Ning Fan was even more speechless. If his identity as a young emperor were to be exposed, the death exemption order would no longer be able to protect him. Who knew how many Shishi would try to kill him in the slaughter hall for the reward? In order to prevent the next slayer from growing up, the old monsters in the outside world would send many people to kill him. This identity was a huge trouble for Ning Fan. Ning Fan could not help but admire the previous generations of Shah emperors. He really wondered what kind of dangerous environment these Shah emperors grew up step by step. He suddenly understood why Fu Linglong was so anxious to break through to the eternal ancient realm. Without entering the eternal ancient realm, Fu Linglong was just a young empress in name. Without any real benefits, she could only be hunted down and assassinated. As soon as she entered the 10,000 ancient realm, Fu Linglong would be able to temporarily take the position of the Slaughter Emperor. She would be in charge of the life and death of a palace's experts. Not even the immortal emperor would dare to underestimate her. Unfortunately, Fu Linglong was too impatient. In the end, she failed to break through to the eternal ancient realm. If Ning Fan had a choice, he really did not want to be a young emperor who would only bring harm to himself. However, from the moment he refined the innate ghost mask, it seemed like there was no turning back. He was already a young emperor. From the looks of it, the only thing he could do now was to not reveal his identity as a young emperor to avoid attracting other troubles. The rules of the Slaughter Hall are a little too harsh for a young emperor. According to the rules, as the Shah Emperor, I can't provide any help to this generation's young emperor. You must live and die on your own. However, the current situation is special. You, the 8th generation young emperor, are the last hope of the blood world. How can I let you live and die on your own? I have to give you some means to protect yourself. What you need to do is to use the heaven-seizing seal as little as possible to avoid exposing your identity as a young emperor. There's no harm in using the innate ghost mask. Other than the previous Shah emperors and the great elder of the Slaughter Hall, no one knows the significance of the innate ghost mask. Use the heaven-seizing seal as little as possible, huh? Ning Fan murmured. The heaven-seizing seal is the divine ability that every Sha emperor must cultivate. It is the symbol of his identity and its power is limitless. If you don't have the confidence to protect yourself, don't use this technique in public. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome if your identity as a young emperor is exposed. Once you use this technique, you must take the enemy's life and leave no survivors. It can be a disaster. As soon as he finished speaking, the Sha emperor stood up from his throne. His body flashed and appeared in front of Ning Fan. He lifted his finger and pointed it at Ning Fan's glabella. Ning Fan's heart skipped a beat, but he did not dodge. This finger was not meant to harm him but to give him an opportunity. The 7 heaven-seizing seals can only be cultivated by someone who has the thought fragment realm. With your current cultivation base, you can only cultivate the first form of the palm imprint. I can't teach you the cultivation method of the 7 seals for the time being. However, I can teach you the Tao of slaughter that I have comprehended in my lifetime. Among them, there are also insights on the cultivation of seals. If you carefully comprehend them, you will surely gain something. The blood light went through the Sha Emperor's finger and went into Ning Fan's head, seeping into his sea of consciousness. Ning Fan closed his eyes and the scenes of a bloody massacre appeared in front of him. That was a blood-haired youth's path of slaughter. That blood-haired young man was born in the bloody slaughtering world. He was a descendant of the Northern Dipper clan. He started cultivating at the age of 6, reached the harmonious spirit realm at the age of 10, formed his gold core at the age of 16, formed his nascent soul at 100 years, reached the void fragmentation realm at 1,000 years, the crossing truth realm at 1,000 years and the fragmenting thought realm at 10,000 years. He became the 7th young emperor of the Slaughter Palace. 1,000,000 years later, the blood-haired youth was already a white-haired old man. He had inherited the title of the 7th Slayer with the cultivation of the eternal 7th Tribulation. On the day he became a sovereign, 10,000 ancient realm cultivators came looking for trouble. The white-haired old man attacked, killing them all and refining them into companion slaughter puppets. The scenes of that battle replayed in Ning Fan's mind. Amidst the galaxy, the white-haired old man's eyes shone like the Big Dipper. His expression changed, and the 100,000 galaxies sank into eternal night. He raised his palm and the Big Dipper appeared in the sky. The 7 stars connected and the phenomenon was shocking. 7 palms merged, a golden palm appearing. When this palm struck out, millions and millions of creatures were wiped out. 16 ancient immortal kings and immortal kings all died. The 4 celestial thearchs provoked him, but the white-haired old man heavily injured the 4 thearchs with another palm strike. The 4 thearchs were so frightened that they fled. 4,000,000 years later, the white-haired old man broke through the 8th tribulation of the eternal 8th tribulation. He could even put up a fight against a 9 tribulation immortal emperor. Another 10,000,000 years later, the white-haired old man reached the peak of the 9th tribulation. Within the eastern heaven, no celestial thearchs dared to provoke the Slaughter Palace anymore. Gradually, the scenes disappeared. Ning Fan slowly opened his eyes and saw Shadi looking at him with a satisfied smile. What you saw just now was the massacre of my entire life. It contained the enlightenment of the heaven-seizing seal and the entire process of my cultivation of the Big Dipper Heavenly Scripture. The Big Dipper Heavenly Scripture is a cultivation method that every Shadi must cultivate. Your luck isn't weak. If you cultivate this technique and encounter some opportunities, you can at least attain the 5th color of your immortal luck within 2,000 years. Thank you for imparting the Tao to me, venerated sovereign. Ning Fan cupped his fists to express his gratitude. He had once witnessed the massacre of the ancient chaos great emperor's lifetime when the Yin-Yang locket recognized him as its master. However, the Tao enlightenment gained from the massacre was only limited to the first step of Tao cultivation. Sha Di, on the other hand, was different. He showed Ning Fan the massacre of his lifetime and also showed him the Tao enlightenment of his lifetime. To Ning Fan, being able to witness the lifetime's enlightenment of an immortal emperor was extremely beneficial. Moreover, he even obtained a cultivation method to cultivate luck. To Ning Fan, this cultivation method was extremely meaningful. What are you thanking me for? You are the hope of the blood world. The reason why I help you is just to help my family. Sha Di said with a smile. Family? Ning Fan's heart shuddered for no reason. Family was such a strange word to cultivators. So, to Sha Di, the mortals and cultivators of the blood world are all his family? That's why he has to protect them with his life? It seems like you haven't triggered the strongest ability of the innate ghost face. Sha Di changed the topic and pointed out something. The strongest ability of the innate ghost face? Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He had already vaguely noticed that the innate ghost face had another powerful ability other than isolating himself from detection, concealing himself from heaven's will and concealing himself. However, he had yet to figure out what that ability was until now. After hearing Sha Di's words, Ning Fan's expression turned solemn. The strongest point of the innate ghost face isn't concealment but killing without karma. Without karma, there will be no sin. Without karma, even if you kill someone who consumes the death-chasing pill, no one will know who the killer is. When you are killing someone, if you summon the ghost face, you can remove all karma. Killing without karma. Ning Fan's eyes flashed. If killing without karma, the old would not come to seek revenge after killing the young. This innate ghost face was definitely a must-have item for those who like to kill and rob. Fei He has bad intentions towards you. You have to be careful. As the Sha Di, I can't be partial to you and help you kill Fei He. However, I can give you 3 methods to protect yourself. Even if you really expose your identity as the young emperor one day and get yourself killed, you don't have to be afraid. I will protect you for the rest of my life. As soon as he finished speaking, Sha Di made a grabbing motion with his hand. Traces of golden light spread out from his palm and condensed into a golden jade slip. This golden jade slip seemed ordinary, but it contained boundless abilities. After condensing this golden jade slip, Sha Di's chi immediately became weaker. The first method I'm going to give you is this offensive jade slip. It contains one of my abilities. Its power is barely comparable to the attack of an immortal venerable, the first tribulation of all eternity. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm on the verge of death and can't condense a stronger jade slip, I would definitely condense an attack of an immortal emperor to protect you. Fortunately, even though the power of this jade slip is only at the level of an immortal venerable, it's enough to kill thought fragmentation realm experts. With this jade slip, you don't have to be afraid of Fei He. After letting out a long sigh, Sha Di gave the golden jade slip to Ning Fan. Ning Fan received the jade slip and felt the immense power of the ability. His heart trembled and he could not stay calm at all. The ability in this jade slip was too powerful. The attack of an ancient immortal venerable was enough to instantly kill a peak thought fragmentation realm expert. Thank you for your gift, venerable sovereign. Ning Fan kept the jade slip and cupped his fists to express his gratitude. The second method I'm going to give you is a jade slip of the heavenly gate. You should know that I have 16 eternal ancient realm spiritual puppets with me. Initially, I wanted to give them to you. However, your cultivation base is too low and you can't control puppets of such a level. If you encounter any trouble in the future, just break the jade slip of the heavenly gate. As long as you're still within the eastern heaven, I can send the 16 puppets to your side through the heavenly gate to help you in battle once. With my current physical condition, I can only use this method once at most. You must make good use of this opportunity. Sha Di waved his palm and took out a silver jade slip out of thin air, passing it to Ning Fan. When Ning Fan received the jade slip, he felt even more astonished. With this jade slip of the heavenly gate, Ning Fan could summon 16 eternal ancient realm spiritual puppets to help him once in the eastern heaven. 16 eternal ancient realm spiritual puppets were enough to wipe out all forces below the immortal emperor realm. Without waiting for Ning Fan to keep the silver jade slip, Sha Di took out a blood-red jade slip and passed it to him. This is the third life-saving method that I'm going to give you. This jade slip is a descending jade slip. As long as you're still within the 4 heavens, once you break this jade slip, I will use my teleportation ability and descend to your side. With my Peak 9 Tribulation Realm cultivation base, I will help you in battle. My Tao is on the verge of dissipating. I can only leave the blood world once in my life. I'm giving you this chance. You must use this jade slip carefully. Since Sha Di spoke in a serious tone, Ning Fan agreed to it seriously. These 3 jade slips were the life-saving methods that Sha Di gave to Ning Fan. These 3 methods could ensure that Ning Fan's life would not be in danger when he travels the Eastern Heaven. Ning Fan held the jade slips in his hand and felt that they were heavy as if they weighed 10,000 kilograms. Today, he had received benefits from Sha Di. In the future, he would fulfill his promise to protect the blood world for Sha Di. You already know my identity as Young Emperor. There's no need for me to explain anymore. Next, I will bring you to the blood world to have a look. At the same time, I will tell you about the history of my slaughter palace. As soon as he finished speaking, Sha Di flicked his sleeves. In a flash of blood-red light, both of them disappeared from the Broken Army Star Palace. At the next moment, they appeared in the night sky in a faraway place. Standing in the night sky, Sha Di looked down at the living beings below. His cold eyes gradually turned gentle. He raised his hand and locked Ning Fan's Yuan Yao Jade with a finger. He did not want Ouyang Nuan to hear his words. After that, he said to Ning Fan, I was born in the blood world. I don't know much about the ancient secrets. I only know that the people of my blood world are the descendants of immortal sovereign Beidou. They are not allowed to exist in this world and are feared by everyone. Ever since the fall of the Big Dipper realm, countless immortal sovereigns and saints of the Big Dipper realm had fallen. Later on, the first generation Sha Di appeared. He had a close relationship with immortal sovereign Beidou. He had comprehended 7 of the 3,000 seals of the immortal sovereign's secret technique, Big Dipper 3,000 seals. In his entire life, he worked hard to revive the Big Dipper realm. He fought against Purple Dipper and other experts with the intention of seizing the heavens. Later on, the first Sha Di was defeated in the hands of an expert. After being enlightened by that expert, the knot in his heart was gradually untied when he saw the flourishing Purple Dipper era. From then on, he gave up on seizing the heaven's will and established the Slaughter Palace to protect the descendants of immortal sovereign Beidou. Since then, he has never stirred up trouble. The purpose of my Slaughter Palace's existence is not to destroy the Purple Dipper immortal domain but to protect the descendants of Big Dipper. Killing is just a means. Protecting is the root. Because this is the last homeland of the cultivators of Big Dipper. You are not a descendant of Big Dipper. I don't expect you to be like me and have a longing for this place. I just hope that you will remember the oath that you have made. After I die, you will help me protect the blood world. The bloodline of Big Dipper must not be destroyed by my hands. Otherwise, I won't have the face to face the former venerated sovereign. Sha Di looked at the living beings below his feet with a sad expression. He could only protect the blood world for another 2,000 years. After 2,000 years, I wonder if the blood world will still exist. It was not that he did not have confidence in Ning Fan. It was just that 2,000 years was too short for Ning Fan to grow fully and protect the blood world on his behalf. Unfortunately, he had no other choice. He could only bet all his hopes on Ning Fan. He bet that Ning Fan could continue to protect the blood world after 2,000 years. Or he bet that the enemy would not immediately notice his death and attack the blood world. Who was the enemy that attacked the blood world 6 million years ago? Ning Fan suddenly asked. I don't know. Perhaps it was one of the 10 great secret races. After all, among the 4 heavens, only the 10 great forces could dispatch 6 immortal emperors at once to besiege the blood world. 10 great secret races. 6 immortal emperors. Ning Fan's expression changed. Kunlun Jade Pool, Purple Mansion Academy, Godly Void Pavilion and Lost World Palace are the strongest forces in the 4 heavens on the surface. However, these 4 forces are still under the control of the 4 Profound Sect. The 4 Profound Sect is the maker and executor of the laws of the 4 heavens. Their foundation is even stronger than the Godly Void Pavilion and the other forces. On the other hand, the 4 Profound Sect is under the control of the 10 great secret races. In the future, when your cultivation base improves a little, you will have a better understanding of the 10 great secret races. You must not provoke such a colossus. Otherwise, even Shadi's expression became extremely solemn at this moment. Any one of the 10 great secret races had the foundation to dispatch 6 immortal emperors. Shadi was unwilling to admit it, but he had no choice but to admit that the Slaughter Palace was definitely not a match for such great secret races. If you really can't defend the Blood World 2,000 years later, bring a few of your descendants and escape secretly. At least, you can't let the Big Dipper bloodline go extinct. At least, you must let the Big Dipper bloodline continue to exist. Shadi closed his eyes and let out a long sigh. Ning Fan did not answer him. His eyes became more and more solemn. It turned out that even someone like Shadi, who had ascended to the peak of the second step, also had times where he was powerless to turn the situation around. You are about to become an immortal. After going through the baptism of the blood pool, you should comprehend the Tao in the blood world and become an immortal. If there are any accidents, I can also take care of you. This boat is for you. It allows you to enter the blood world at any time. After standing in the night sky for an unknown period of time, Shadi suddenly took out a palm-sized silver boat and gave it to Ning Fan. It was the 7-star boat that could allow him to enter the blood world. Ning Fan's 7-star boat accompanied Shadi and stood in the night sky for a long time. After a long time, Shadi finally put away all of his expressions. With a flick of his sleeve, he brought Ning Fan back to the Broken Army Star Palace. When he returned to his throne, Shadi's aged figure and the cold and cheerless main hall reflected each other's brilliance. You may leave now. Understood. Ning Fan cupped his fists at Shadi and walked out of the Star Palace. As a young emperor, don't die in the hands of mediocre people. Just as Ning Fan was about to walk out of the Star Palace, Shadi's faint voice entered Ning Fan's ears. Ning Fan was stunned. He turned around and cupped his fists. Understood. Then he turned around and left. Looking at Ning Fan's departing figure, Shadi's aged eyes were filled with nostalgia. Many years ago, when he was still the 7th-generation young emperor, he seemed to have done something similar to Ning Fan. I, Yao Guang, beg Venerable Sovereign to grant me the Ocean of Sin Pearl. It's impossible for me to grant you this item. Step down. I beg Venerable Sovereign to grant me the pearl. Yao Guang. Even though you are the 7th-generation young emperor, you don't have the right to ask me for a reward. If you cause any trouble again, I don't mind granting you death. If Venerable Sovereign doesn't grant me the Sea of Sin Pearl, Yao Guang won't regret death. Yao Guang, why are you doing this? Your Tao companion is already dead. If an immortal dies and the Tao disappears, not even a sage can save her. Even the Sea of Sin Pearl won't be able to save her life. I beg Venerable Sovereign to grant me the Sea of Sin Pearl. Yao Guang is willing to exchange her life for the Sea of Sin Pearl. Fine. I don't want your life. I just want you to swear an oath that you will protect the blood world for the rest of your life and ensure that the bloodline of my Big Dipper clan will never be destroyed. You can do it. Yao Guang is willing to make a blood oath. If the blood world is destroyed, Yao Guang will definitely die in front of it. As long as Yao Guang is still alive, I will never allow anyone to harm the blood world. If that's the case, you can have the Sea of Sin Pearl. Consider it as a reward for your infatuation. You're really an infatuated child. When Ning Fan walked out of the Broken Army Star Palace, Yangwan could finally sense the situation in the outside world and she could talk to him again. Ning Fan, are you all right? That's great. This is really great. I'm so worried that you will. Yangwan's voice trembled uncontrollably. When Ning Fan was confronting the 7th-generation killing emperor, Yangwan did not know what was happening in the outside world. The unknown made her feel terrified. She was afraid that Ning Fan would anger the killing emperor. She was afraid that the death exemption token would not be able to protect Ning Fan's life. She was afraid that Ning Fan would do something foolish due to his impulsiveness. Fortunately, Ning Fan was safe and sound. Otherwise, she would certainly regret it for the rest of her life. She did not ask Ning Fan whether he had obtained the longevity jade or not. Even if Ning Fan did not obtain the longevity jade, this favor alone was enough for her to repay him with everything she had. The longevity jade is in my hands. One air you can live on now. Ning Fan smiled faintly. With a flick of his sleeve, a white jade pendant flew into the Yuan Yao world and landed on Ouyang-Wan's palm. When the white jade landed on her palm, Ouyang-Wan was stunned on the spot. Her mind went blank. Then she covered her mouth to suppress her sobs. Unknowingly, her face was already covered with tears. Were they rejoicing? Were they happy? Were they touched? Were they ashamed? Were they apologetic? She could not tell what kind of emotion she was feeling, but she could not hold back her tears. Did Shadi make things difficult for you? Ouyang-Wan asked carefully. She was afraid that Ning Fan would do something stupid in order to obtain this jade. Shadi did not make things difficult for me. Don't worry. I was the one who willingly took the oath in exchange for this jade. It's not that Shadi made things difficult for me. Everything was voluntary. Refine this jade well. Don't use your medicine's soul power recklessly during this period of time. Don't worry. I'm fine outside and there's no danger. You just need to refine this longevity jade well. After you have completely refined this jade, you can fulfill your promise with me. What promise? Ouyang-Wan's cheeks were burning. What do you think? Ning Fan teased. Despicable. Is that so? Ning Fan smiled disapprovingly and gradually left the Broken Army Star Palace. Then, with a flash of light, he flew towards Fei He's direction. Seeing Ning Fan finally return, Fei He asked nervously, "Did you get the recipe for the Liberation Corpse pill?" "Yes. I got it." As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Fan patted his storage pouch and took out the jade slip containing the pill recipe for the Liberation Corpse pill. He then handed it to Fei He. Fei He received the jade slip and scanned the contents with his spirit sense. Then he was overjoyed. Good. As long as I have this pill recipe. As long as I have this pill recipe. He smiled sinisterly and licked his lips at Ning Fan. After we return to the Blood Sea Star, I will find someone to help you refine the Liberation Corpse pill. You don't have to worry about this. There's only one thing you need to do, and that is to prepare for the baptism in the blood pool. Let's go back to the Blood Sea Star. Fei He patted his storage pouch and took out the 7-star boat. Then he leaped onto the boat together with Ning Fan and returned to the Realm Gate. During this 1 month, Ning Fan stayed in the Yuan Yao world to help Ouyang-Wan refine the longevity jade. With his help, Ouyang-Wan had already refined 2/3 of the jade. As for the remaining 1/3, she had to rely on herself to refine it. She reckoned that she would be able to successfully refine it after 2 to 3 months. At that time, the problem of her lifespan would be completely solved. She could finally officially cultivate and advance to the immortal realm. 1 month later, Fei He and Ning Fan returned to the Blood Sea Star. Fei He left on his own. He was busy searching for the medicinal ingredients for the Liberation Corpse pill and also looking for someone to concoct the pill for him. As for Ning Fan, he went into seclusion in his disciple's residence. While comprehending the Tao comprehension that was imparted to him by the Grim Slayer, he was also waiting for the arrival of the baptism in the blood pool. Time passed day by day. 3 days later, it would be the day for him to receive the baptism in the blood pool. At this crucial moment, Zili woke up. An obedient cry was transmitted into Ning Fan's mind through the cauldron world. All of a sudden, Ning Fan's face lit up with joy. Early Ghost Profound Realm. After Zili woke up, her cultivation base was already at the Early Ghost Profound Realm. The flesh and blood of the immortals in the Yao Sect star region were not eaten in vain. Chapter 744. Zili was already at the early stage of the Ghost Profound Realm, so she could be considered a great help. With the strength of Zili's spirit wheel, she might even be able to fight against a mid-stage Ghost Profound expert. Nodding his head in satisfaction, Ning Fan transmitted his voice to Zili and comforted her. Then, he continued to study Shadi's Tao comprehension. The Tao comprehension of Shadi's lifetime was certainly not something he could comprehend in a short period of time. With the help of Shadi's Tao comprehension, Ning Fan had already comprehended the first style of the heaven-seizing seal to the perfect level. Then, he began to practice the Big Dipper Heavenly Scripture. The Big Dipper Heavenly Tome had a great origin. It was a cultivation method created by the Big Dipper Immortal Sovereign. The first-generation Slayer Emperor had learned this technique from the Northern Dipper Immortal Sovereign, but it was incomplete, and the cultivation technique he passed down was also incomplete. If he cultivated according to the Big Dipper Heavenly Book, he could at most cultivate his immortal luck to the 6th color. If he wanted to cultivate an immortal Emperor's 7-colored providence, he would have to find another method. Although the Big Dipper Heavenly Scripture was incomplete, it could not conceal the power of this cultivation technique. The Heavenly Book was divided into 2 volumes. The first volume talked about the cultivation method of luck, while the second volume talked about the technique of luck plundering. The Big Dipper Heavenly Scripture's main method of cultivating destiny was to refine the starry sky's power into destiny. It was very difficult to achieve success in cultivating it in a short time. The true power of this cultivation technique lay in the plundering of fate. Generally speaking, cultivating one's chi and fate was connected to one's fate. One could cultivate it but could not plunder it. It just so happened that the Big Dipper Immortal Emperor was extremely talented and created the Big Dipper Reversal Technique, which could reverse the luck of others. The Big Dipper Reversal Technique was recorded in the second half of the Tomes of Heaven. The Big Dipper Reversal Technique could only be used on those with higher providence than the user, as the efficiency of plundering providence was relatively low. Furthermore, during the casting process, the opponent was not allowed to resist, or the technique would be interrupted. The grade of Ning Fan's immortal luck was already at the 1st colored immortal luck. If he can plunder the luck of 100 cultivators with the 2nd colored immortal luck, he would be able to break through to the 2nd colored immortal luck. For an ordinary immortal cultivator, even if they cultivated to the crossing truth realm, they might not be able to cultivate a 1-colored immortal fate, much less a 2-colored immortal fate. Finding 100 perfected immortals with 2-colored immortal luck and plundering their luck was easier said than done. A cultivator with 3-colored immortal luck had 10 times the luck of a cultivator with 2-colored immortal luck. A cultivator with 4-colored immortal luck had 10 times the luck of a cultivator with 3-colored immortal luck. If Ning Fan could plunder the luck of 10 cultivators with 3-colored immortal luck or 1 cultivator with 4-colored immortal luck, it would be enough for him to attain the 2nd color of his immortal luck. I have the enlightenment of the Slayer Emperor. It is not difficult for me to learn the Big Dipper reversal art. If there is a chance, I can steal the luck of others to improve my own luck. With this thought in mind, Ning Fan continued to comprehend the Big Dipper Heavenly Scripture and gradually gained some insights. 3 days later, Ning Fan pushed open the door and walked out of the disciple house. Outside the house, there were already 2 ghost-faced old women waiting. They were Yao Qingyun's 2 Duzhen maids, Lu Lan and Yen Hong. As soon as they saw Ning Fan walking out, the 2 ladies immediately said politely, "Today is the day you are going to receive the baptism of the blood pool. Elder Qingyun ordered us to bring you to the blood pool pavilion. Seniors, please lead the way." Ning Fan's eyes flickered slightly. Without saying much, he followed the 2 of them to the blood pool pavilion. Along with the increase in his life-saving methods, he was no longer afraid of Yao Qingyun's provocations, nor was he afraid of Fei He's schemes. The 3 jade slips that Sha Di gave him were all stored in the profound Yin world by Ning Fan. Ning Fan knew that the baptism of the blood pool that he was going to receive was of the highest grade. During the entire process, he could not wear any clothes. Therefore, he naturally could not bring them into his storage pouch. Therefore, he had already moved his strongest life-saving methods to the profound Yin world. Outside the blood pool pavilion, the 2 ladies stopped in their tracks and said, "Little friend, your baptism is of the highest grade. Other than you and Elder Qingyun, who is in charge of the baptism, no one is allowed to enter the blood pool pavilion to avoid disturbing the baptism. The 2 of us are not allowed to enter the pavilion. Little friend, you can enter on your own. Understood?" Ning Fan nodded his head and walked into the blood pool pavilion alone. The moment he entered the pavilion, countless powerful formation lights rose outside the pavilion. They could stop anyone from entering the pavilion and disturb the baptism. From the outside, the blood pool pavilion was just a pavilion. However, the interior of the pavilion had its own space. There were hundreds of palaces inside the pavilion. At this moment, there was not a single person in the area. In each of the palaces, there was an empty blood pool. The air was filled with a faint smell of blood. It was the smell of the blood of demonic beasts. Ning Fan scanned the area with his spirit sense. After confirming the direction, he walked towards the largest palace. Outside the palace, there was a lady in green robes with a frosty face. Her fine black hair fluttered slightly in the wind. As soon as she saw Ning Fan approaching her, she said coldly, "As a disciple of the Killing Palace, why didn't you greet me when you saw me?" This lady was none other than Yao Qingyun, who was in charge of Ning Fan's baptism. Today, Yao Qingyun was in a rather bad mood. As for the reason, it was naturally because she had no choice but to face Ning Fan naked and help him complete his baptism. Ning Fan frowned slightly. He still cupped his fists at Yao Qingyun and said, "Disciple Ning Fan greets Elder Qingyun. Dispense with the formalities. Follow me into the blood pool." Seeing Ning Fan frown, Yao Qingyun's mood became much better. She was unhappy here. If Ning Fan is happy, wouldn't it be too unfair? Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. He did not expect that Yao Qingyun would lead him into the blood pool after making things difficult for him. Previously, Ning Fan guessed that Yao Qingyun hated him to the core. She would probably take action against him during this baptism. However, looking at Yao Qingyun's expression now, even though there was still disgust towards him, it did not seem to be as resentful as before. Could it be that this lady no longer hates me? Or is she just hiding her hatred and wants to harm me when I'm careless? Ning Fan's frown deepened. He became extremely vigilant and followed behind Yao Qingyun into the palace. If Yao Qingyun really wants to harm him, he would not mind teaching her a painful lesson. The jade slip of an immortal venerate's attack was totally enough to blast Yao Qingyun into pieces. Killing intent? Yao Qingyun was slightly stunned. She turned her head and looked at Ning Fan doubtfully. She was Elder Shikong after all. Although Ning Fan's killing intent only flashed for a moment, she still managed to catch it. At the moment when Ning Fan's killing intent flashed, Yao Qingyun felt an extreme sense of danger from him for the first time. She did not believe that Ning Fan could give her such a sharp sense of danger. As far as she knew, Ning Fan's strongest trump card was the Spirit Blast technique of the Yao clan. Moreover, the number of primordial spirits that Ning Fan possessed was not enough to give her a sense of danger. Was it just my imagination? Yao Qingyun shook her head and continued walking forward. Of course, she did not know that Ning Fan's trip to the blood world had given him a few more trump cards. The level of danger he would be in was already immeasurable. The palace occupied an area of 10,000 zhang. The ground was filled with countless blood grooves that formed circles of mysterious and indescribable formation marks. At the center of the countless blood grooves was a gigantic blood pool that was 1,000 zhang in size. The pool was 2 qi deep and it was filled with the sticky, dark red blood of demon beasts. Judging from the energy of the blood of these demon beasts was at least at the rogue immortal realm. There were even quite a number of immortal life realm demon beasts. Yao Qingyun stood outside the blood groove grand formation at the outermost layer. She puffed out her chest proudly and said to Ning Fan coldly, "Take off your clothes and enter the blood pool. I will help you concoct spiritual herbs to harmonize the demon blood and help you absorb the energy of the blood pool." "Take off my clothes, huh?" Ning Fan walked to the edge of the pool. With a flick of his sleeve, he kept his clothes, storage pouch and other items into his cauldron world. Then he leaped into the blood pool and sat inside. He did not take off his clothes and put them aside. After all, Yao Qingyun was not Ouyang Yuan. She was not worthy of his trust. "Are you afraid that I will steal your things? Who do you think I am? Why would I steal something from a void fragmentation realm junior like you?" Yao Qingyun let out a disdainful snort. Her eyes accidentally fell on Ning Fan's naked body and she immediately showed a look of disgust. Yao Qingyun shifted her gaze away. She felt extremely displeased. "Damn it. I just saw something that I shouldn't have seen. I wonder if I will get eye sores or not. Damn it. I still have to go into the water myself later and have physical contact with that stinky brat. Damn it. I really shouldn't have made that bet in the first place. Unfortunately, I have already made the bet and lost it. I can't go back on my words. The only thing Yao Qingyun could do was to accept her loss. Yao Qingyun patted her storage pouch and took out tens of thousands of tufts of spiritual herbs that were above 100,000 years old. She chanted an incantation and her 10 fingers moved rapidly. All of a sudden, the blood groove grand formations in the palace lit up one after another. The tens of thousands of tufts of spiritual herbs flew into the pool and fused with the demon blood in the pool. Gradually, the dark red and sticky demon blood turned green and then golden. Eventually, it turned colorless and crystal clear like ordinary water. It was just that this seemingly ordinary pool water contained a vast amount of energy. Sitting in the pool, Ning Fan felt his body getting hotter and hotter. His face turned red and traces of black substance were being forced out of his body by the heat. All of a sudden, Ning Fan understood the principle behind how the blood pool could increase his chances of becoming an immortal. This blood pool had an effect similar to cleansing one's meridians and marrow. However, the black substance that was cleansed out did not come from his meridians and marrow. Instead, it came from his Tao heart and Tao sense. By sweeping away the distracting thoughts and negative emotions in his Tao heart, it would increase his chances of becoming an immortal. After understanding the key, Ning Fan calmed himself down and used the power of the blood pool to clear his Tao heart bit by bit. The purpose of baptism was to cleanse his Tao heart thoroughly. Humph! I haven't even explained the key to him, but he already understood it on his own. Yao Qingyun let out a dissatisfied snort. However, she had to admit that Ning Fan's comprehension ability was very high. He even understood the usage of the blood pool on his own. The blood groove grand formation had been activated and the spiritual herbs in the pool had also been prepared. The next step was extremely important. Yao Qingyun needed to use her profound cultivation base to help Ning Fan cleanse his Tao heart. At the thought of facing Ning Fan naked, Yao Qingyun felt gloomy. She silently chanted an incantation to suppress all the negative emotions in her heart. Then she walked towards the pool with light steps. When she arrived at the edge of the pool, she hesitated for a moment. In the end, she gritted her teeth and undid the buttons on her outer robe with her bare hands. All of a sudden, Ning Fan's eyes were filled with vigilance. He stared at Yao Qingyun without blinking and focused all his attention on her. He had already carefully checked the water in the pool. There was nothing wrong with it. Until now, Yao Qingyun had yet to make a move on him. He did not feel relaxed at all. Instead, he became even more vigilant. He did not believe that Yao Qingyun could easily cast aside the blood feud of the Yao clan and become friends with him. Perhaps, the moment Yao Qingyun takes off her clothes would be the moment when her killing intent arrives. Being stared at by Ning Fan as if he was guarding against a wolf, Yao Qingyun's heart throbbed and countless flames of anger were ignited. Dissatisfied. Extremely dissatisfied. What kind of eyes does Ning Fan have? So distrustful. So vigilant. Who is she, Yao Qingyun? She was a dignified elder of the Slaughter Palace. If she wanted to deal with Ning Fan, she would have plenty of opportunities. Why would she need to sacrifice her body to do so? If it wasn't because of the bet she made with the Nether Sea Immortal King, would she be so kind as to host the blood pool baptism for him? She had always been a woman of her word. Since she had promised the Nether Sea Immortal King that she would help Ning Fan complete his baptism, she would never go back on her word. Even if she wants to deal with Ning Fan, she would do it after the baptism in the blood pool and not now. Put down your guard. This baptism, this palace won't do anything to you. Yao Qingyun said indignantly. I don't believe it. Ning Fan answered without hesitation. You. Believe it or not, it's up to you. Yao Qingyun clenched her teeth in anger. She explained to Ning Fan out of goodwill, but he still did not believe her. All right. If he doesn't believe me, then so be it. She did not care whether Ning Fan believed her or not. Most importantly, Ning Fan's eyes were fixed on her, paying close attention to every single one of her actions. Under such a scorching gaze, how could she have the nerve to take off her clothes? Elder Qingyun, you still haven't entered the pool. Could it be that you are thinking of some scheme? Ning Fan's tone was cold as he examined Yao Qingyun. If I want to deal with you, do I still need to use schemes? Yao Qingyun was so angry that she laughed. For a moment, she cast aside all her shyness and undid the buttons on her clothes one by one. She took off her outer robe and then untied her silk belt. After taking off her embroidered shoes, socks, and undergarments, she placed all her clothes and her storage pouch at the side of the pool. Then she proudly raised her fair neck and looked at Ning Fan with disdain. She crossed her arms across her chest to cover her breasts and stepped into the pool naked. She did not bring anything with her. She was open and above board, unlike Ning Fan, who was so vigilant. He even thought that an old monster like Shikong too would need to plot against a void fragmentation realm junior, sneak attack and scheme. Ning Fan frowned. Yao Qingyun's current expression was proud and upright. It did not seem like she was plotting anything. Could it be that he had misunderstood Yao Qingyun? Yao Qingyun did not plan to deal with him during the baptism in the blood pool? Amidst the faint mist, Yao Qingyun's fair body was faintly discernible. She actually looked a little beautiful. Every inch of her delicate skin seemed to contain boundless magic power. It actually messed up Ning Fan's Dao heart in an instant. His blood vessels surged and his heart was filled with lust. It was as if there was a bewitching voice persuading Ning Fan to rush forward, pounce on Yao Qingyun and tear her apart. Ning Fan was startled. He quickly activated the yin-yang transformation heart mantra to suppress his lust. The way he looked at Yao Qingyun secretly carried a hint of surprise. This lady has the charming bone in her body. Even though it has been sealed, it still emits bewitching power uncontrollably. If I'm not wrong, this lady probably has a type of 7-yin physique? As Yao Qingyun approached him step by step, Ning Fan lost his composure. He was not the only one who lost his composure. Yao Qingyun also lost her composure. She never had any lust towards Ning Fan. All she felt was disgust. However, just as she was 5 steps away from Ning Fan, her delicate body suddenly went limp. Her heart felt numb. It was actually the green pity physique that almost broke out. The green pity physique was a type of 7-yin physique. Because of this physique of hers, the life immortal realm experts of the Yao clan had once tried to keep her as a human cauldron. As her cultivation base gradually grew, this physique was sealed by her bit by bit. Unexpectedly, when she faced Ning Fan naked this time, the seal on her physique was actually broken a little. That was close. Luckily, it's just a little bit. With my cultivation base, I can still suppress it. If the seal on my physique is completely broken in front of Ning Fan and my seductive body is exposed, I'd rather die. Yao Qingyun heaved a sigh of relief. She walked to Ning Fan and sat cross-legged in the pond. The pond water could barely reach half of her chest. Besides, the water was very clear and it could not cover the fair skin on her body at all. The seal on her physique had been broken a little, but the numbness in her body had yet to subside. Facing Ning Fan in such a state, Yao Qingyun could not remain as calm as she was before. When she looked at Ning Fan's handsome face again, Yao Qingyun actually took a second look at him. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly and her black eyes became a little blurred. At the next moment, she was shocked by her own action. She should hate Ning Fan, but the 7-yin physique made her want to get close to this man in front of her uncontrollably. Damn it! Damn it! Why is this damned physique acting up now? Yao Qingyun bit her lips hard. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of her lips. She used the pain to slightly calm the desire brought by her physique. Then, without looking at Ning Fan, she said coldly, "Raise your hands and face my palms. I'll help you clear the distracting thoughts in your Dao heart." It was not that she was too lazy to look at Ning Fan, but she did not dare to. There was no need to talk about Ning Fan's appearance. His body had long become perfect because of all kinds of physiques. Even Yao Qingyun, who had the 7-yin physique, instinctively regarded Ning Fan as a peerless human cauldron and wanted to get close to him. Yao Qingyun naturally did not dare to look at Ning Fan anymore as she was afraid that her 7-yin physique would act up again. "Are you in trouble?" Ning Fan looked at the trace of blood at the corner of Yao Qingyun's lips. He frowned slightly and asked for some reason. What does my matter have to do with you? Quickly face my palms and don't talk nonsense. Yao Qingyun made a cold smile, wanting to express the contempt in her heart to Ning Fan. It was obviously a cold smile, but because of the 7-yin physique, that smile was dyed red with intoxicating charm. It was sweet and moving. She was obviously scolding Ning Fan, but because of the 7-yin physique, that voice sounded like a whisper from a lover. Is the 7-yin physique acting up? Ning Fan could vaguely see some clues. If it was possible, he did not mind being a shameless villain and taking advantage of Yao Qingyun's situation to push down this 7-yin physique that came to him. Unfortunately, Yao Qingyun's cultivation base was too high. She was at the void renunciation realm and was not someone he could pluck. If Yao Qingyun did not take the initiative to dual cultivate with him, he would at least need to cultivate to the crossing truth realm in order to be strong. After thinking for a while, Ning Fan temporarily dismissed the idea of dealing with Yao Qingyun. Today was the day of his baptism in the blood pool. If he wanted to borrow the power of the blood pool to increase his chances of becoming an immortal by 15%, he would need Yao Qingyun's help. If Yao Qingyun's condition was not good, it would also be very disadvantageous to him. What are you still standing there for? Raise your hands. Yao Qingyun impatiently grabbed Ning Fan's hands and put them in a position where their palms were facing each other. Her soft palms were weak and the qi in her body was already in a mess. As soon as her palms touched Ning Fan's skin, Yao Qingyun's body became even more numb. She felt that there was a ball of fire in her chest that was about to burn her to death. Yao Qingyun bit the tip of her tongue and suppressed her desire once again. She felt that she was about to collapse. This damned physique. Why would it break the seal and act up at this moment? All of a sudden, a trace of cool magical power was transmitted from Ning Fan's palm into Yao Qingyun's body. In an instant, the numbness in Yao Qingyun's body immediately disappeared. With Ning Fan's help, her desire was easily suppressed. Yao Qingyun looked at Ning Fan in disbelief. She could not believe that the man in front of her would be so kind as to help her suppress her desire. What is your purpose? Do you think that I will forgive you for all the offenses you have committed in the past just because you showed me some goodwill? Yao Qingyun sneered. So it's Ning Fan's unnecessary action. Ning Fan frowned and stopped transferring his magical power into her body. He no longer helped Yao Qingyun suppress her desire. All of a sudden, the cool feeling in Yao Qingyun's body disappeared and the numbness spread all over her body. She did not expect that Ning Fan would suddenly withdraw his magical power. Due to a moment of carelessness, she was completely lost in her desire. Her pretty face instantly flushed red. Her fair skin glowed with a pink luster. Under her long eyelashes, her eyes looked as if they were about to drip water. Her palms that were originally facing Ning Fan suddenly intertwined with each other. Help me quickly. Yao Qingyun bit the tip of her tongue fiercely. However, she realized that the pain was no longer enough to suppress her desire. Why should I help you? Of course, Ning Fan knew that Yao Qingyun's ambiguous words were not referring to helping her once in a while but helping her suppress her desire. If you help me this time, all the previous offenses will be written off. Yao Qingyun gasped, her body involuntarily leaning towards Ning Fan. She knew that if Ning Fan still refuses to help her, she would be controlled by her lust and push him down. That was a scene she did not want to see even if she died. Write it off? Then what about the matter of you offending me? Ning Fan said coldly. Don't go overboard. This is the first time I'm giving in to a man. Help me. Yao Qingyun's smooth tongue licked Ning Fan's neck. Her heart was filled with shame and indignation as she fiercely bit him. His expression was fierce, but his bite was too weak. Ning Fan knitted his brows. He had never thought that he would have to resolve the grudge between him and Yao Qingyun in this way. He naturally didn't want Yao Qingyun to lose control. If Yao Qingyun lost control and pushed him down, he would be killed by Yao Qingyun if he didn't resist. If he used the attack Jade Scroll given by the Slayer to fight back, he could kill Yao Qingyun instantly, but it would be a waste of a Jade Scroll. Since Yao Qingyun was willing to write off all the grudges in the past, Ning Fan did not mind saving a Jade Scroll and having one less enemy. Elder Qingyun, Please swear that all the grudges in the past will be written off. Ning Fan said coldly. Swear. I feel terrible. Yao Qingyun was completely bewildered. In order to stop Yao Qingyun from making a fool of herself, Ning Fan held her smooth little hand tightly and transferred the power of the yin-yang transformation into her body bit by bit to help her suppress her lust. Yao Qingyun's entire body leaned against Ning Fan's chest. Her head leaned weakly on Ning Fan's shoulder and her breath smelled like orchids. Gradually, her eyes regained their clarity. When she noticed her current posture, she really wished she could find a piece of tofu and knock her head against it to kill herself. Without any hesitation, Yao Qingyun quickly distanced herself from Ning Fan. When she recalled her embarrassing behavior and how she begged Ning Fan, she could not help but feel ashamed and indignant. She was a dignified person. Elder Qing, please help me cleanse my Dao heart. Ning Fan's calm voice brought Yao Qingyun back to her senses. Yao Qingyun was originally extremely ashamed and indignant. When she met Ning Fan's eyes, which were as calm as still water, she was suddenly stunned. There was no mockery, hostility, or sarcasm in Ning Fan's eyes. In fact, there was even less vigilance compared to the past. There was only calmness. It was as if nothing had happened. If you dare to tell anyone about what happened just now, nothing happened just now. Ning Fan said calmly. Nothing happened just now. Don't worry. Since I've promised you, I will write off all the grudges in the past. In the future, I won't look for trouble with you anymore. Yao Qingyun finally calmed down and faced Ning Fan's palm again. This time, she transferred her magic power into Ning Fan's body to help him cleanse his Dao heart. Even though she had already suppressed her lust, she still felt her delicate body tremble when she touched Ning Fan's palm again. Then her ears turned hot. Damn it. Could it be that my lust hasn't been completely suppressed? Yao Qingyun's brows knitted together. She felt uneasy no matter how she looked at Ning Fan naked again after the small incident. The cleansing lasted for 3 days and it went rather smoothly. If the previous incident is ignored, it could almost be considered as a perfect cleansing. Ning Fan could clearly feel that his Dao heart had become clearer after this cleansing. It was definitely not a lie that his chances of becoming an immortal had increased by 15%. Is it time for me to become an immortal? There are no more updates. Let's wash up and sleep. Chapter 745. After that bloody baptism in the blood pool, Yao Qingyun kept her promise and no longer sought trouble for Ning Fan in the future. After resting for 3 days in the disciples' residence, he went to the 12 pavilions. He spent 1 million Dao crystals in the teleportation pavilion and sent a voice transmission to the medicine sect. Then he found a barren mountain on the Blood Sea Star and opened up a cave residence. Yangwan and Harry Ball no longer stayed in the Yuan Yao world. Instead, they accompanied Ning Fan and stayed in the cave dwelling. In another month, Yangwan would be able to completely refine the longevity jade. At this moment, her white hair had turned back into a glossy jet black hair. Her smile did not diminish at all and it was as warm as the morning sun. She truly lived up to her reputation as the medicine sect's #1 beauty. For the entire month, Ning Fan stayed in the cave residence to accompany Yangwan in refining the longevity jade. After a month, Yangwan had completely refined the longevity jade. From then on, the problem of her natural medicinal body's lifespan was completely solved. A few days later, a wretched old man came to the Blood Sea Star nervously. When he saw that Yangwan had really refined the longevity jade, his eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. Then he was overjoyed. You really got the immortal jade from Shadi. Amazing, amazing. Wei Wuji was so excited that he didn't know what to say. Ning Fan had obtained the longevity jade for Yangwan. At this moment, Wei Wuji felt that Ning Fan was pleasing to his eyes no matter how he looked at him. He already knew that Ning Fan would need a large amount of 1 million years old spiritual herbs to cultivate the 3 condensing flowers. As he was delighted, he directly gave Ning Fan 1,100 tufts of 1 million years old spiritual herbs and 40 life immortal Dao fruits. 100 million-year-old elixirs were worth close to 200 billion Dao crystals. 40 life immortal Dao fruits were also worth 70 to 80 billion Dao crystals. This was almost a third of the medicine sect's storage. Wei Wuji wanted to bring Ou Yangwan back to the medicine sect, but Ou Yangwan refused. Ning Fan is about to become an immortal. I want to accompany him to become an immortal first before returning to the medicine sect. Ou Yangwan had just regained her new life. How could she bear to part with Ning Fan at this moment? With the power of the Seven Stars boat, Ning Fan opened the passage and crossed the Blood River, returning to the bloody slaughter world. The baptism had ended perfectly. Ou Yangwan's hidden ailment had been resolved and the seed of the immortal soul grass was already in his hands. At this moment, Ning Fan could finally become an immortal with peace of mind. With Sha Di taking care of the blood world, it was the most suitable place for Ning Fan to attain immortality. Ning Fan and Ou Yangwan entered the blood world while Wei Wuji stayed in the Blood Sea Star for the time being. After Ning Fan becomes an immortal, he would bring Ou Yangwan back to the sect. It was not that he had a vicious nature and wanted to separate Ning Fan and Ou Yangwan no matter what. It was just that Ou Yangwan's body had been weak for too long. She needed to return to the medicine sect and use the sect's resources to nourish herself. Moreover, the extreme Dan sacred region would open in 80 years. Now that Ou Yangwan had obtained the longevity jade, she had the qualifications to become an immortal and ascend to the Tao of alchemy. For her, the extreme Dan sacred region was a great opportunity that could not be missed. As Ou Yangwan's master, Wei Wuji also wanted to bring Ou Yangwan back to the sect as soon as possible to prepare for the trip to the extreme Dan sacred region. In a secret cave residence on the Blood Sea Star, Wei Wuji sighed with emotion. Let's wait in the Blood Sea Star. That Ning Fan will most likely become an immortal within 80 years. After little girl Nuan is done sticking to him, I will bring her back to the medicine sect. Old Man Han, old man Han. I didn't expect that you would get such a good disciple after descending to the lower world despite having bad luck for your whole life. In the past, you and I made a bet on whether you could get a disciple and cure little girl Nuan. I didn't expect that you would win the bet. As the ancient saying goes, a fool will gain something out of 1,000 losses. No matter how unlucky a person is, there will still be times when he or she gets lucky. Achu, the old devil who was happily planting a small Dao fruit in the lower world, sneezed unexpectedly. Little May said that sneezing means that someone is thinking about me. I wonder who is the one who is thinking about me. Could it be Little Ning? Speaking of which, Little Ning has already left the lower world for tens of years. Now, he should be about to become an immortal. The bloody slaughtering world was a medium-sized world. It had a vast area with more than 100,000 countries. There were mortal countries and cultivation countries. The descendants of the bloody world, be it cultivators or mortals, were all the descendants of the Big Dipper. They didn't know their identity as the descendants of the Big Dipper. They also didn't know that there was another world outside the bloody slaughtering world called the Eastern Heaven Immortal World. Only cultivators who had cultivated to the void fragmentation realm would have the chance to know about the existence of the Eastern Heaven Immortal World and leave the bloody world to join the Slaughter Palace and become a killer of the Slaughter Palace. Among the 100,000 countries, there were only 40,000 cultivation countries and the rest were mortal countries. Among the 40,000 cultivation countries, there were only 2,000 void refinement realm cultivators and less than 100 void fragmentation realm cultivators. There were only 3 cultivation countries with life immortals. Among the 100,000 countries, there were only 7 life immortals and 1 ghost profound realm cultivator. These life immortals were the cultivators of the Slaughter Palace. They were responsible for mediating the conflicts between the 100,000 countries and maintaining the stability of the bloody world. What Sha Di protected was the entire bloody world, not the people of a country or a city. Naturally, he didn't care about the disputes between the cultivation countries. The spiritual martial country was a low-level cultivation country located in the north of the bloody world. The strongest sect in the country was the spiritual martial sect. The sect master was a late gold core realm cultivator. The spiritual martial country was a cultivation country near the sea. There was a cultivation city in the country named Willow City, which was located at the border of the Jade Sea. Willow City was a picturesque cultivation country. The city was brightly lit and the night was never lost. There was no day in the bloody world of slaughter. The time of a day was calculated according to the brightness of the Big Dipper constellation. This city was located near the sea. The soil was fertile and suitable for spiritual plants. The cultivators who lived in this city often built their own herb gardens to plant spiritual herbs. The quality of the spiritual herbs that grew up was quite high. The name of Willow City came from an illusion. It was said that countless years ago, there was a young man who called himself Jumen. He went into seclusion in this city to comprehend the Tao. He planted a willow tree seed in this city and comprehended the Tao in front of the tree seed. He dreamt for 10,000 years. When he cleared the confusion in his heart and opened his eyes, he suddenly realized that the willow tree seed that he planted in the past had already grown into a huge tree that covered the sky. As for him, he was no longer a young man. After he woke up from the dream, he was already an old man with white hair that reached the ground. How can humans endure such a thing? That person let out a long sigh and ascended to the sky. No one knew where he went. The cultivation base that he revealed when he ascended to the sky had shocked all the cultivators in the 100,000 countries. No one knew how strong that cultivator named Jumen was. Jumen. Could it be that the one who planted the willow tree in the city was the second generation killing emperor, Jumen killing emperor? Outside Willow City, a young man in white robes was looking at the picturesque cultivation city. His eyes fell on the towering willow tree in the city. His expression was filled with nostalgia. Beside the young man in white robes was a beautiful woman in green robes. She always had a warm smile on her face. In front of the young man and the woman, there were two cute little girls with red lips and white teeth. One of the little girls had a pure face and bright eyes. Her hair was black and shiny. She was wearing a pink little jacket. She seemed to be around 6 or 7 years old. However, her body carried a sense of dignity that could not be disrespected. Although she did not seem to have a trace of cultivation base, every move she made had the brute force to tear a void fragmentation realm cultivator into pieces. The other little girl was around 8 or 9 years old. She was wearing a black little dress. The style of the dress was very ancient and strange. It was the dress that only the priestesses of the ancient demon race would wear. Her long black hair reached her waist. Her eyes were purple. There was a mysterious purple-black rune on her glabella. It was only the size of a fingernail and it could seal her sea of consciousness. This group of people was none other than Ning Fan and his group who had just returned to the blood world. The young man in white robes was naturally Ning Fan. The woman in green robes was Ouyang Nguyen. The little girl with brute force was Mu Weiliang. As for the purple-eyed girl in black robes who was dressed like a young priestess, she was Zili. Her appearance was exactly what Zili looked like after she transformed. At first, Ning Fan did not know that Zili had gained the ability to transform after breaking through to the early ghost profound realm. When he entered the blood world and let Mu Weiliang out, he realized that Zili could already transform. At that time, Mu Weiliang held Zili's hand and appeared in front of Ning Fan together. Ning Fan was stunned. When Zili timidly called out, "Master," Ning Fan was shocked to realize that this little girl was actually Zili. The rune on Zili's glabella was the Sin Seal of the Fu Li clan. This Sin Seal had the ability to seal things. Besides, it was also sealed by words. The seal prevented Zili from revealing any information about the Fu Li clan. Zili, who was in her human form, could speak and communicate with Ning Fan. However, as long as Ning Fan asked about the Fu Li clan, the Sin Seal on Zili's glabella would light up, preventing her from revealing any secrets about the Fu Li clan. Even though Ning Fan possessed the ancestral blood of the Fu Li clan, he did not have the method to remove the Sin Seal. He could not help Zili remove the Sin Seal and he could not get any information about the Fu Li clan from Zili. All information was sealed by the Sin Seal. Zili's personality was like a blank piece of paper. She did not have any common sense in life and she only knew how to fight and kill. This made Ning Fan very curious. What kind of grave mistake did this little girl commit in the past that she was actually stripped of her Fu Li bloodline and was demoted to a Sin Li clan? Mu Weiliang was reborn and her memories were all gone. Her originally innocent personality was also like a blank piece of paper. Thus, when Zili completed her transformation in the Cauldron World and met Mu Weiliang by chance, the two of them instantly became companions. Thus, when Mu Weiliang was summoned out of the Cauldron World by Ning Fan, Zili also followed her. Let's comprehend the Tao and become an immortal in this planting willow city. As soon as Ning Fan finished speaking, he brought the three ladies into the city. Thus, on this day, a small house that had been abandoned for a long time in the south of the city was bought by a cultivator with the surname Ning for 100 immortal jade. Ning Fan, O Yangwan, Mu Weiliang and Zili officially moved into the planting willow city. O Yangwan brought the two little girls to have fun in the city. As for Ning Fan, he stayed in the backyard for the entire morning and was busy cultivating the medicinal garden. With O Yangwan, Mu Weiliang and Zili's strength, they would not face any danger when they travel across 100,000 countries. Thus, Ning Fan naturally did not need to worry about their safety. The reason why he opened up the medicinal garden was to plant the immortal soul grass in this place and use it to nourish Mu Weiliang's soul. This was the reason why he first came to the Eastern Heaven. He had never forgotten it. After cultivating the first medicinal garden, Ning Fan planted the immortal soul grass using the secret technique recorded in the spiritual plant scripture. After that, he casually opened up another large nursery beside the medicinal garden. With a thought in his mind, he casually scattered handfuls of the 5 grains seeds in the nursery. Planting the 5 grains in the mortal world was just to brew wine with the 5 grains. Ning Fan liked wine, especially mortal wine. He preferred the mortal wine that he brewed himself. Spiritual wine could improve one's cultivation base and magic power while mortal wine could not. However, in comparison, Ning Fan felt that mortal wine was closer to the Tao. Dong dong dong, the sound of knocking was mixed with magic power, spreading across the entire courtyard. Ning Fan was squatting down to pull out the weeds in the nursery. When he heard the knocking on the door, his eyes flashed with surprise. When he opened the door, he saw 17 to 18 young men standing outside the house. Most of them were 11 or 12 years old. The leader was a 15-year-old young man in black robes. These young men were all descendants of the Northern Dipper realm. Each of their eyes was as bright as the stars. These young men were at least at the first or second level of the vein-opening realm. The young man in black robes who was the leader had the highest cultivation base at the 9th level of the vein-opening realm. "What's the matter?" Ning Fan asked indifferently. "Little brother, is this your first day in planting Willow City? Don't you know who we are? What are we here for?" The voice of the young man in black robes was still immature, but his tone was fierce like a hooligan. "I don't know. If there's nothing else, you guys can leave now." Ning Fan's tone was still indifferent. "Leave? You want us to leave without paying the protection fee?" The black-robed youth snorted coldly and drew his saber. Then, with a swoosh sound, the rest of the youths drew out their blades at the same time. It seemed like they were going to attack Ning Fan without saying a word. Ning Fan shook his head. These blades were all magic treasures. Unfortunately, their grades were too low. Even if he just stood there and let them slash at him, they would not be able to hurt him at all. "Little brother, although you're a few years older than me, your cultivation doesn't seem to be as high as mine. If we were to fight, I'm afraid you'll be at a disadvantage. I advise you to take out some immortal jades to save your life. Otherwise..." The black-robed youngster was organizing his words to threaten Ning Fan. Suddenly, Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He did not exude any pressure, and he did not even use any baleful aura. With just one look, the black-clothed youth, who had been in the underworld for a long time, had a bad feeling. It was as if he wasn't facing a human, but a primordial beast. The black-robed youngster couldn't see through Ning Fan's cultivation. He thought that Ning Fan's buying such a shabby house was most likely a vein-opening cultivator. Who would have thought that Ning Fan actually had such a terrifying look in his eyes? Ning Fan's cultivation base was definitely much more terrifying than what he had imagined. "Hurry up and leave. I'll stay and stop him. The black-robed youngster's heart was filled with fear, but he gritted his teeth and endured the fear. He waved his hand at his underlings behind him, ordering them to retreat. He strode forward, withstood the fear, and held the saber with both hands. He pretended to be calm while looking at Ning Fan's. The one who offended you is me, let them go. He knew that he had collected protection fees from the wrong person. Today's matter wouldn't end well. The only thing he could do was to use his own life to exchange for the escape of his underlings. Ning Fan's eyes flickered. He actually saw the shadow of his younger self in this black-robed youngster. That year, as the elder brother, he also stood in front of Ning Gu time and time again, shielding him from danger, allowing Ning Gu to escape. Thinking about it, he found it funny. He was a famous devil lord in the eastern sky, but he was actually being collected protection fees by a group of brats who hadn't even grown up yet. When he killed people and robbed their belongings, he didn't even know where these brats were. You guys go. This is the only time, there won't be a next time. Bang! Ning Fan's closed the door. He really didn't have the mood to care about this group of juniors. After Ning Fan's closed the door, the black-robed youngster's knees suddenly went soft. He fell to the ground and said while shivering, "This person's eyes are so scary. Even the demonic beasts in the blue sea don't have such scary eyes." The group of underlings were quite loyal and didn't leave the black-robed youngster alone. Seeing their big brother fall, they immediately came over to support him. All of them had an expression of lingering fear. "Big brother, what is that person's cultivation? Why are his eyes so fierce?" a little brother asked. "At least harmonious spirit. At least gold core." The black-robed youngster said with certainty. What? Gold core old devil? Could this person be the legendary gold core old devil? Oh my god. We actually collected protection fees from a gold core old devil. This is simply courting death. The group of youngsters were shocked. The group of youngsters finally left with their tails between their legs. The sky gradually darkened. Oh Young One came back with the two little girls. Mu Wei Yang and Zi Li both looked like they had eaten and drank to their heart's content. According to Oh Young One, these two little girls got bored of playing in the city, so they went to the depths of the blue sea and hunted many demonic beasts to fill their stomachs. Sister Nguyen, I'm sleepy. Mu Weiliang rubbed her eyes and yawned. Mistress, sleepy. Zili was so tired that she couldn't even open her eyes. Oh Young One shook her head helplessly. She hugged little Furball and coaxed the two little girls to sleep. The three girls had already gone to bed. Ning Fan sat alone in the courtyard, on the grass in the courtyard. Looking at the eternal darkness of the blood world, looking at the Big Dipper stars in the night sky, looking at the cattail grass in the courtyard, his heart had never felt so peaceful before. For the next few decades, he would spend his time in this night world. My Tao of life and death hasn't reached perfection. Life and death can't be comprehended in a day. Ning Fan's mind moved. He suddenly plucked some cattail grass from the ground and recalled the grass hoop that Zido weaved during the life and death tribulation. Let's comprehend the grand Tao from this grass hoop. The first grass hoop suddenly burned to ashes when it was about to be weaved successfully. The second grass hoop also burned to ashes when it was almost finished. The third grass hoop, the fourth grass hoop, the fifth grass hoop. The first half of the night passed in a flash. Ning Fan had plucked all the cattail grass in the courtyard. He had tried countless times, but failed to weave the grass hoop. All that was left was ashes on the ground. There seems to be something missing in this grass hoop. That's why I can't weave it. In the latter half of the night, Ning Fan gradually fell into a long period of silence. Chapter 746. Time flowed like water. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. For the past month, Ouyang Wan brought the two little girls out to play every day. They would only return at night. The two girls had playful personalities, and Furball was also someone who could not sit still, but Ouyang Wan was not. She just didn't want to stay at home and disturb Ning Fan's enlightenment. For a whole month, Ning Fan stood in the courtyard with his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes were staring blankly at the ashes on the ground. Compared to a month ago, his puzzlement had increased. I don't understand. After letting out a long sigh, Ning Fan flicked his sleeves and blew away the ashes on the ground. After thinking for a while, he pushed the door open and went out. There was no day in the blood world, only night. The lights in the Willow Tree City were always lit. Lanterns were lit outside every house. It was the first time he went out of his house in the past month. It was the first time he calmed down to see the difference in Willow Tree City. Willow Tree City was different. The people were different and the cultivation atmosphere was also different. It was completely different from the murderous and cold-blooded cultivation world in the outside world. Occasionally, mortals would come to this city and sell all kinds of things on the long street. Fruits, jewelry, snacks, paper kites, and even sugar figurines. Cultivators didn't just pursue cultivation. They would also travel to relax and buy those useless things from mortals. A few vein-opening realm cultivators were sitting at a noodle stall on the street. They were eating hot plain noodles and talking about their harvest from hunting ferocious beasts in the blue sea. Pairs of vein-opening realm Dao companions held each other's hands in the darkness of the night. They were deeply affectionate as they stayed together in the darkness. A harmonious spirit middle-aged man was holding a cute little boy in his arms. Beside him was a sweet-tempered woman. They were standing in front of a sugar figurine stall, patiently waiting for the mortal in front of them to make a sugar figurine. You're not allowed to cry when you have sugar figurines. Do you understand? The middle-aged man rubbed his stubbled face against the boy's face. His eyes were filled with love. I promise I won't cry anymore. Xiao Shan will obediently go home with father and mother. Xiao Tong vowed solemnly. Go home, go home, go home. Ning Fan's cold and barren heart was suddenly touched. To cultivators, home was a luxury. Cultivators could travel the world, but they also had no home. Wherever they went was home. The cultivators of the 4 skies and 9 worlds had no home, but the cultivators of the Big Dipper blood world did. This was the home of the Big Dipper descendants. The atmosphere here was really good. Ning Fan looked at the little boy enviously and gave him a rare knowing smile. This smile wasn't a pretense. After laughing for a while, Ning Fan revealed a surprised expression. After 7 emotions extinguishing, this was the first time he laughed from the bottom of his heart. He suddenly raised his head and looked at the Big Dipper in the night sky. He seemed to have understood something, but he couldn't quite put it into words. The Northern Dipper blood realm was fundamentally different from the Eastern Heaven immortal world. Because of that difference, Ning Fan could still smile. In this place, the 7 emotions that he should have destroyed were being reconstructed bit by bit. Although there was daylight in the 4 heavens, the world was too dark. There was only darkness in the blood world, but the warmth of humanity. Home was where one could feel at ease. Home. It was no wonder that Nwaner, the 3 women, and 1 beast liked planting Willow City and the Big Dipper blood world. They were so happy here that they forgot about home. The Big Dipper blood domain was indeed a good place. Ning Fan walked across the long street. He walked through the misty night sky and the lights of thousands of households. Lanterns were hung outside each of the houses. Within the light of the lanterns, there was longing. Mothers longed for their children, wives longed for their husbands, and children longed for their fathers. Home. The lights of thousands of households entered Ning Fan's eyes. Gradually, his eyes were filled with some indescribable emotions. Unknowingly, he had already arrived at the inner city of Planting Willow City. In this place, there was a towering giant willow that had existed since ancient times. According to Ning Fan's guess, it was a willow that was left behind by the Slaughter Emperor of the Giant Gate to gain enlightenment. This giant willow contained an obscure great Tao of life and death, which made Ning Fan's eyes flicker. However, the significance of this willow to Planting Willow City was not to gain enlightenment but to make a wish. There were temples built near the giant willow. Outside the temples, there were many tourists making vows in front of the giant willow. There were also beautiful ladies burning incense and praying in front of the giant willow. Beside the giant willow, there were 17 to 18 stalls. The owners of the stalls were all cultivators. They were helping the tourists to ask for and interpret the fortune sticks. Ning Fan's eyes swept across the stalls. Each of them had different levels of heavenly power. Even though they were not strong, it also showed that these stall owners were not trying to cheat people of their money. Instead, they were truly capable. Little brother, do you want to ask for a fortune stick? I'm the strongest expert in the Tao of divination in this city. I'm the best at interpreting the fortune sticks of others, especially the fortune sticks of marriage, fortune sticks, and fate sticks. People call me Yu Sanju. 10 immortal jades for one stick, and the first one is free. It's not expensive at all. An old man wearing yellow Taoist robes saw Ning Fan's gaze and thought that there was business at his door. Immediately, he walked over with a smile and boasted about his business. Even though his appearance was a little wretched, his heavenly power was indeed the strongest in this place. His cultivation base was also not weak. He was at the 8th level of the vein opening realm. 10 immortal jades for one stick was not expensive. Ning Fan casually took out 20 immortal jades and handed them to Yu Sanju. 20 immortal jades were enough for him to ask for 3 sticks. After all, the first one was free. After receiving the money, the yellow-robed old man's smile became even more wretched. He brought Ning Fan to the front of the stall and handed one of the 3 pots to Ning Fan. The first lot is the fortune stick of marriage. Little brother, please ask for a stick. I will certainly interpret the fortune stick for you. The yellow-robed old man couldn't see through Ning Fan's strength. He only thought that Ning Fan was an ordinary vein-opening cultivator in the city. Ning Fan nodded and was about to shake the pot. Suddenly, a group of young men aggressively walked towards the stall. This group of young men were the ones who had provoked Ning Fan before. The black-robed young man's expression was full of anger. His voice was heard before he came close. Yu Sanju, what kind of bullshit fortune stick did you interpret for me? 10 days ago, you said that I was lucky and had a great opportunity. I brought people to the Blue Sea to seek for opportunities and almost died there. What bullshit opportunity? Give me back the money I paid for interpreting the fortune stick. Yu Sanju's expression immediately changed when he saw this group of aggressive young men. He looked a little flustered and was about to pack up his stall and run away. Want to run? The black-robed young man sneered and waved his hand. The young men behind him drew out their blades and quickly surrounded the stall. Yu Sanju smiled bitterly and ran to the black-robed young man. Second Master Ren, please don't be angry. The matter of asking for the fortune stick is sometimes accurate and sometimes not accurate. Cough cough. You can't blame me for not interpreting the fortune stick well. Humph, you still want to quibble? You are. The black-robed young man sneered. He was about to teach Yu Sanzi a lesson when he suddenly noticed Ning Fan's in front of the stall. His originally arrogant expression was now filled with reverence. Yu Santai was taken aback. In his impression, the black-robed youngster was the tyrant of Ji Willow City. He had once injured an early harmonious spirit expert with his 9th-level vein-opening cultivation. In this planting Willow City where harmonious spirit was respected, almost no vein-opening expert dared to provoke the black-robed youngster. Moreover, the black-robed youngster was extremely arrogant and despotic on normal days. Even if he met a harmonious spirit old monster, he would not show any kind face. However, at this moment, the black-robed youth was looking at Ning Fan with deep respect. Yu Santai did not dare to imagine what cultivation base Ning Fan had exactly to be able to make the black-robed young man reveal a look of respect. Late harmonious spirit realm? Peak harmonious spirit realm? And it was the legendary golden elixir realm. I'm asking for a fortune stick. I don't want anyone to disturb me. Ning Fan looked at the black-robed youth and said indifferently, Understood. Little ones, put away your blades and guard the stall. No one is allowed to disturb Big Brother. The black-robed youngster ordered. The group of youths immediately put away their blades and stood at the side respectfully. No one dared to disturb him. The black-robed youngster gave Yu Santai a threatening stare and said coldly, Explain the lot for my big brother properly. If you don't do it well, I will cut you into pieces. Big brother. This little brother. No, this master is actually your big brother. All of a sudden, Yu Santai was deeply convinced that Ning Fan was definitely a gold core expert. There was once a peak harmonious spirit expert who went to look for the black-robed youngster and wanted to take him as his little brother. However, he was rejected by the youngster. The black-robed youngster was too arrogant. He did not even want to acknowledge a peak harmonious spirit expert as his big brother. Instead, he acknowledged Ning Fan as his big brother. This meant that Ning Fan was stronger than a peak harmonious spirit expert. If he was stronger than a peak harmonious spirit expert, what else could he be other than a gold core old monster? When Yu Santai thought that he was about to explain the lot for a gold core old monster, his palms could not help but sweat. This is troublesome. If I don't do it well, will I be killed by Ning Fan? Ning Fan slightly frowned. He did not know when he became the big brother of this black-robed youngster. Ignoring the black-robed youngster, Ning Fan closed his eyes and shook the lot pot. After a few breaths, he shook the lot. Yu Santi's hands trembled as he picked up the bamboo lot. There was only a row of strange runes on the bamboo lot. There were no words, which was different from the lot of mortals. After glancing at the content of the bamboo lot, Yu Santai closed his eyes and pinched his fingers to calculate. Suddenly, he picked up a red brush and wrote a poem on a piece of yellow paper. At this moment, he was immersed in the power of heaven's mystery. He had no idea what he was writing. When he opened his eyes and saw what he had written, his face immediately turned ugly and his shivering became even more intense. 1,000 years of loneliness, a lifetime of love. I can't bear to see the fallen red crushed into dust. Beauties are as numerous as the clouds. Half a bosom friend and the other half an enemy. How do I explain this lot? Ning Fan asked indifferently. This lot. Yu Santai did not know what to say. Big brother asked you to explain the lot, so hurry up and explain it. If you delay any longer, I will immediately cut you into a human stick. The black-robed youngster said coldly. Cough, I will explain it. I will explain it. This lot is considered to be the worst lot among the marriage lots. Judging from the lot, I'm afraid this old man will have to go through a long period of loneliness before he can get a lifetime of love. Besides, this old man has more than one woman. I'm afraid he has many women. Unfortunately, among these women, some are bosom friends and some are formidable enemies. In short, his marriage is full of ups and downs. Yu Santai said with a trembling voice. Nonsense. My big brother is like a banished immortal. How can his marriage lot be the worst lot? The black-robed youngster glared at Yu Santai angrily. Ning Fan, on the other hand, looked at Yu Santai with slight surprise. He thought that this person's divination was very accurate. Speaking of which, although he had many beauties around him, many of them had turned from enemies to bosom friends. Not bad. Ning Fan's indifferent voice was like the sound of nature. It made Yu Santi's face filled with joy. What he was most afraid of was Ning Fan being dissatisfied with the divination. Now, it seemed like Ning Fan was very satisfied with the result. After hearing Ning Fan's words, the black-robed youngster naturally suppressed all of his anger and did not continue to make things difficult for Yu Santai. It was good that Ning Fan was satisfied. Ning Fan was his big brother. Since his big brother was satisfied, he naturally would not have any dissatisfaction. After the first lot was done, Yu Santai passed the second pot to Ning Fan. This lot was to ask for good luck. Ning Fan shook out the first lot. Yu Santai pinched his fingers and calculated again. Then he waved his brush and wrote a poem on the yellow paper. At first, it was like the purple sun reflecting its rays. Then, it was dyed with filthy and fallen black light. It's too common for one to die a miserable death. Putting down the brush, Yu Santai opened his eyes. When he saw what he wrote, he was so frightened that cold sweat broke out. Great misfortune! Great misfortune! This lot is even worse than the worst lot. How can I divination it without angering Ning Fan? Just tell me the truth. I won't do anything to you. Ning Fan saw through Yu Santi's panic and said indifferently, This lot is the great misfortune lot. Judging from the lot, you were supposed to have great fortune and boundless good fortune. However, because of some reasons, your fortune changed and you lost all your good fortune. Now you're surrounded by bad luck. From now on, you're not fated to have any good fortune. You have to be careful when you go out. If you're not careful, you'll be killed by others and die a miserable death because of your bad luck. Yu Santai gritted his teeth and explained honestly. Nonsense. How dare you curse my big brother to die a miserable death? The black-robed young man was furious. Ning Fan, however, waved his hand and nodded with satisfaction. Accurate. It's really accurate. This Yu Santai could actually predict that his purple luck would turn black. Unfortunately, this Yu Santai was destined not to be able to predict that his black luck would turn purple. It was normal that he could not predict it. If this Yu Santai could predict the change of his luck, Ning Fan would be worried instead. So, the next lot is about my fate. Ning Fan picked up the third pot and shook out a lot. Then he passed it to Yu Santai to solve it. Yu Santai pinched his fingers and calculated. Then he closed his eyes and waved his brush, producing the third lot. When he opened his eyes and saw what he wrote, his face turned pale with fright. The first lot was the worst lot. The second lot was extremely inauspicious. As for the third lot, it was actually the lot of Azura. This lot could not be any more inauspicious. Slay all the immortals and become devils. Slay all the devils and slay Azura. It's hard to obtain the true Tao fruit in the Sea of Blood. So what if the Tao is destroyed after attaining it? This lot, there's no need to solve this lot. I can understand it. Ning Fan put down the pot and turned to leave. In his life, he had spent most of his time slaughtering endlessly. In order to protect the obsession in his heart, he had already been stained with blood and sinned deeply. But so what? He could not avoid this path. He could not hide from it. While walking under the starry sky of the Big Dipper, Ning Fan's thoughts gradually drifted away. During the tribulation of life and death, he had heard about the story of Immortal Sovereign Zido killing Immortal Sovereign Ziwei and Immortal Sovereign Beidou. In the past, when Immortal Sovereign Zido destroyed the Ziwei and Beidou immortal domain, the crimes he committed were definitely not trivial. After the massacre in the Sea of Blood, the Zido immortal domain became peaceful and prosperous. Zido gifted the world a peaceful and prosperous era with his sins. It was hard to judge Zido's merits and demerits. However, Ning Fan understood that he was not as good as Zido. Throughout his journey, all he thought about was to protect his loved ones with his sins. He did not have such a big dream to protect the world. In fact, he was not as persistent as the previous Shah Di, who was willing to give up everything to protect the blood world. He had always been selfish. He could never be selfless. However, at this moment, he had an urge to turn the chaotic Four Heavens and Nine Worlds into a peaceful place like the Northern Dipper Blood World. He wanted to let the people he loved live in the cultivation world without any worries. They did not need to worry about being murdered or assassinated. They just needed to live a normal life like a mortal. Was this a kind of dream? Creating a peaceful and prosperous era to let the people he loved be happy. Was this considered a kind of dream? Dream. Immortal Sovereign Zido's words seemed to be echoing in his ears. Do you have any dreams in your heart? When I was your age, I was just a demon devil who killed without restraint. One day, you will have your own opinion about the cultivation world. In a daze, Ning Fan seemed to hear another voice in his ears. That voice came from the giant willow. No living beings could hear it except for Ning Fan. It was the voice of the great Tao. It was the voice of the great Tao left by the person who comprehended the Tao under the giant willow. The night was dim. Ning Fan had already walked very far away. Suddenly, he looked back and saw the giant willow that towered into the sky. There was once a young man who called himself Jumen. He planted the willow seed and comprehended the Tao before planting it. On the day he attained the Tao, 10,000 years had passed. The willow seed in the past had already turned into a towering tree. He lamented the passing of time under the tree. He lamented the fact that the tree was like this. How could humans endure it? No one knew that when the Shah Di of Jumen was on his deathbed, he also quietly passed away under the giant willow. He entrusted everything to the third-generation young emperor. He sat alone under the giant willow and looked at it. He looked at the blue sea that was like the tide in the past and the green mountains that were immersed in the eternal night. He did not feel dejected like he had passed away. Instead, he was filled with pride. There was a second sentence he said, but no one heard it. That voice turned into a sentence of Tao that existed in the giant willow for eternity. The green mountains are still the same, but my hair has turned white. Time really doesn't spare anyone. However, a man can grow old and his strength can decline, but his heart can never die and his ideals can never be extinguished. Even though my body is dead and my Tao is extinguished, my ideals will live forever with the Big Dipper star. The sentence of Tao entered Ning Fan's ears. He suddenly raised his head and looked at the Big Dipper star that filled the sky. He remained silent for a long time. At this moment, his Tao had a sublimation. It had a qualitative change and there were signs of it becoming solid. At this moment, Ning Fan's expression was solemn. He cupped his fists and bowed to the Big Dipper star. This bow was filled with respect and admiration. What he admired was the persistence of the Shadi of Ju men which existed in the giant willow forever. He finally understood how to attain the Tao. His Tao could be verified with countless things in the world. Mountains, rivers, plants and trees all had their own persistence. All living beings in the world had their own persistence. The Shadi of Ju men had his own persistence. Immortal Sovereign Zido had his own persistence. Persistence was a Tao that transcended life and death. It would not disappear with death. Ning Fan was a butterfly in his previous life. Even though his body had turned into ashes, his persistence had yet to dissipate. From the past to the present, his protective heart had never changed. Persistence could transcend life and death as well as the cycle of samsara. If one is obsessed with emotions, even if the 7 emotions are extinguished, they can still talk and smile. If one is obsessed with a thought, even if one's Tao disappears, even if one's body dies and the cycle of samsara is annihilated, this thought would never disappear. After a long time, Ning Fan's eyes gradually became clear. He turned around and returned to his residence. Outside the main entrance, 2 lanterns were hung high and lit. This was the home of him, Nguyen Er, Whaleyong and Zili. By lighting the lanterns, it could illuminate their way home. Time passed day by day. 1 year passed quickly. The immortal soul grass had yet to grow, but the 5 grains were already plentiful and could already be used to brew wine. The cattail grass in the courtyard had also grown again. One day, a stall for divination appeared outside the temples in the inner city. The owner of the stall was Ning Fan. He only solved one type of divination. Divination of life and death. Bundles of cattail grass were placed beside his feet. Every time he solved the divination of a person, he would weave a grass ring. He wanted to weave the life and death of others into the grass ring. For 7 consecutive days, no one came to Ning Fan to solve the divination. On the 8th day, the black-robed young man brought a group of people and a pitiful middle-aged scholar to Ning Fan to solve the divination. Big brother, I heard that you set up a stall here. Coincidentally, I have a friend who wants to find someone to calculate the divination of life and death. Big brother, please help him. The black-robed young man's expression was respectful while the middle-aged scholar who was brought here complained incessantly. He did not know the black-robed young man at all. Since when did he become his friend? He was just a vein opening cultivator who had just entered Willow City. As soon as he entered the city, he was brought here by the black-robed young man to solve the divination. He was just a spiritual plant farmer who planted spiritual herbs for a living. He did not go to dangerous places to seek for treasures or opportunities. Why would he need to calculate the divination of life and death? But now, the black-robed young man was forcing him to ask for the divination. He did not dare to refuse. May I know how much will you charge for solving the divination of life and death? The middle-aged scholar smiled bitterly. For a vein-opening cultivator, 1 divination lot and 10 immortal jades. Ning Fan said indifferently, 10 immortal jades, that's not too expensive. The middle-aged scholar heaved a sigh of relief. I'll just spend 10 immortal jades to get rid of this calamity. After paying 10 immortal jades, the middle-aged scholar took the lot container and shook it. He shook out a lot, but there was nothing on it. There were no words at all. Empty lots? The middle-aged scholar was stunned and looked at the lot pot. All the lots were blank. He felt that he had been cheated. There were no runes on the blank lot, so how could he make a divination? How could he interpret the lots? What he didn't know was that all the empty lots were specially made by Ning Fan. Ning Fan did not know how to perform divination or interpret the divination stick. However, he knew how to observe the life and death of others. This secret bamboo lot also had the ability to observe the life and death of a person. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with the Tao light of life and death. That day, when he participated in the dragon fishing convention in the monster realm, he used the Tao of life and death to observe others' life and death, which shocked countless experts. Now, he was able to freely utilize the life and death Tao light to observe the life and death of others. Currently, he could only see the life and death of harmonious spirit experts. This middle-aged scholar was at the vein-opening realm. Ning Fan could naturally see through his life and death. 10 days later, you will die in your house. The cause of death is due to being plucked. Ning Fan said indifferently. How laughable. I have never been close to women, so how could I be plucked to death? Moreover, my Lingwu country has a good atmosphere, and there has never been a flower-plucking devil. Who would want to pluck me? The middle-aged scholar looked at Ning Fan disdainfully, thinking that Ning Fan was talking nonsense. The black-clothed youth was enraged. How could he tolerate his big brother being looked down upon? That was the big brother he recognized, the big brother who could paralyze him with just a look. Even when he was facing a peak harmonious spirit old monster, he had never been frightened. Ning Fan being able to frighten him proved that he was not an ordinary person. There must be a reason why he said that the middle-aged scholar would die. Just as he was about to teach the middle-aged scholar a lesson, Ning Fan waved his hand and said, "Renli, stop. I have already explained life and death to him, but since he refused to listen, he should die. Even if he dies, he can't blame anyone else." Renli was the name of the youth in black. After staying in this place for a year, he was already familiar with the black-robed young man. Even though this young man had the temperament of a ruffian, he was not an evil person. He had heard this young man calling him Big Brother many times, so he no longer paid attention to him. Hearing Ning Fan telling him to stop, even though Renli was dissatisfied with the middle-aged scholar, he did not dare to teach him a lesson. He did not listen to anyone but Ning Fan's words and treated them as his orders. The middle-aged scholar knew that he could not afford to offend the black-robed youth and the others. Even though he was dissatisfied with Ning Fan for deceiving them of their money, he did not dare to cause any trouble and left with his tail between his legs. Many cultivators at the side had witnessed the process of Ning Fan deciphering the lots with their own eyes. All of them had the same opinion as the middle-aged scholar, thinking that Ning Fan was deceiving them of their money. Only Yusanti's eyes were solemn. He could vaguely tell that Ning Fan's method of deciphering the lots was extraordinary. Ning Fan's method of deciphering the lots was not based on the power of heaven's mystery but a great divine ability which Yusantai could not understand. Perhaps that middle-aged scholar will really die. Yusantai pondered. 10 days later, a shocking news spread across Willow Planting City. A middle-aged scholar died tragically in his house. The cause of his death was that he was plucked by someone and the culprit was a grass demon. That middle-aged scholar was the person who had sought Ning Fan to decipher the lots. That grass demon was transformed from the spiritual herbs that he planted. The news that the grass demon was killed by the experts of Willow Planting City and Ning Fan's accuracy in deciphering the lots had spread across the entire city at an extremely fast speed. Gradually, many experts who went out to hunt beasts would come to Ning Fan to decipher a life and death lot before they went out. No one knew that on the day that the middle-aged scholar died, Ning Fan had woven the first grass bracelet. That grass bracelet contained the middle-aged scholar's life and death. Ning Fan opened his mouth and swallowed. The grass bracelet turned into a ray of light that was half black and half white and was swallowed into his stomach. As for the Tao mark of life and death in Ning Fan's primordial spirit, one more appeared the moment he swallowed the grass bracelet. Chapter 747. 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. Within these 10 years, Ning Fan had deciphered the lots 60,000 times. Every time he said something about life and death, it would happen without exception. Whether he could avoid the calamity of death or not would depend on the ability of the seeker. It was not something Ning Fan cared about. He just weaved the grass rings of life and death and devoured them. The number of Tao marks of life and death on his primordial spirit had already reached 3,800. He could already become an immortal. However, he had yet to break through the bottleneck of becoming an immortal. He just removed his stall and stayed at home to tend to the herb garden and nursery. Every day, he drank mortal wine brewed from 5 grains and tasted the Tao of wine. Every day, he would pluck some immortal soul grass and boil them for Mu Weiliang to consume. 10 years had passed. Ouyang Nuan's complexion had already recovered. Her cultivation base had also improved a lot. 10 years had passed. Harry Ball's cultivation base was already at the late nascent soul realm. 10 years had passed. Mu Weiliang already looked 8 or 9 years old. The immortal soul grass could really make her grow up. 10 years had passed. Zili had also grown a little taller. She looked about 10 years old now. The reason why Zili could grow up was that she often dived into the depths of the Jade Sea to hunt ferocious beasts for food. To cultivators, 10 years was a very short time. To mortals, it was a very long time. For the first time, Ning Fan felt that time passed very slowly. His current state of mind was like that of a mortal. He was already used to living in Willow City. Now, there was no one in the entire city who did not know the name half-immortal Ning. His life and death log would always hit the target. His 3 wives were either young or old. All of them had peerless beauty and lived in their rooms. Even though the 3 women were extremely beautiful, no one dared to have any ideas about them. There were a few harmonious spirit realm lechers who wanted to tease Ouyang Nuan and the other 3 women. However, they were easily defeated by Mu Weiliang and Zili. Rumors said that Ning Fan and his 3 wives were all Gold Core realm cultivators. Ning Fan no longer deciphered the lots. Occasionally, he would go to the giant willow tree to have a look and then return. He had comprehended life and death, but he had yet to achieve his Tao. Every day, he would be weaving rings at home. It was no longer the grass of life and death but the ring of obsession. Every day, Renli would send people to deliver large amounts of cattail grass for Ning Fan to weave rings. 10 years had passed. Renli was now an intermediate harmonious spirit young cultivator. He was one of the top figures in the entire Willow City. The number of his followers had already exceeded 100, and there were 2 harmonious spirit experts among them. He was already a prominent figure in Willow City. However, every time he saw Ning Fan, he would still respectfully call him Big Brother. It was said that the spirit martial sect leader had taken a fancy to Renli and wanted to accept him as his last disciple, but was rejected by Renli. The reason was that with Big Brother around, there would be a way to travel. His admiration for Ning Fan had already penetrated deep into his bones. 3 years ago, Renli ventured into the Blue Sea with an early harmonious spirit cultivation base to hunt devil beasts. He begged Ning Fan to solve a life and death lot for him. Ning Fan did not help him dispel the divination. Instead, he just gave him a grass bracelet. He was hunting beasts on the outskirts of the Jade Sea with the grass ring when he suddenly encountered a demonic wind that swept him into the depths of the Jade Sea. In the depths of the Blue Sea, there were countless ferocious beasts that were comparable to Golden Core realm cultivators. There were even nascent soul beasts and wild beasts. Renli was besieged by 17 Golden Core ferocious beasts and thought that he was going to die. At the critical moment, the grass bracelet suddenly flew out from his bosom and rose into the air. It turned into 17 fire rings and easily burned the 17 beasts to death. From that day onwards, Renli firmly believed that Ning Fan was a nascent soul realm expert who lived in seclusion. Only a nascent soul realm expert would have the strength to instantly kill 17 Gold Core realm ferocious beasts. Ning Fan had been weaving fire rings for a few years. Fire was the first Tao that he came into contact with. Transforming his sword into fire was his first trump card. The cattail grass in his hand quickly weaved into a fiery red grass ring. With a flick of his finger, the fire ring turned into a ray of fiery light and was swallowed into his stomach. After that, he picked up the cattail grass and continued to weave the next fire ring. 2 years later, he began to weave the soul remembrance grass ring. Another 2 years later, he began to weave the rain grass ring. Another 3 years later, he began to weave the mountain grass ring. Another 3 years later, he began to weave the Fu-li grass ring. The grass rings that he weaved contained various kinds of divine abilities. These divine abilities were different from each other, but they had one thing in common. All of them were integrated with Ning Fan's Tao persistence. All of them existed for protection. It took him 5 years to weave and devour the Fu-li grass ring. He had lived in Planting Willow City for 25 years. Mu Weiliang and Zi Li had already grown into young girls who were around 11 or 12 years old. As for Ouyang Nuan, she had quietly broken through to the 5th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm during this year. This year, Renli reached the peak of harmonious spirit realm and became the lord of Planting Willow City. He used to be a local ruffian, but now he no longer had the slightest trace of a ruffian. He understood what responsibility was, and led a group of subordinates to maintain the stability of Planted Willow City. After weaving the Fu-li grass ring, he also weaved the Devil Sifting grass ring and the Grand Simplicity grass ring. He wove the spirit servants into the rings and devoured them one by one. His Tao was becoming more and more solid, and he was not far from attaining Tao. 15 years passed in the blink of an eye. It had been 40 years since Ning Fan came to Planting Willow City. He finally stopped weaving grass rings. Other than drinking and brewing wine, he tended to the herb garden. 2/3 of the immortal soul grass had been used up, and Mu Weiliang had already grown to the age of 13 or 14. Zi Li grew up a little slower, looking like she was only 13 years old. During this year, Ning Fan and Ouyang Nuan sat opposite each other and drank wine. After getting a little drunk, both of them rolled onto the bed. After a slight stab of pain, it was followed by a deep sense of pleasure. "Harry Ball's father, you're a pervert." After the pleasure, Ouyang Nuan looked at the countless red marks on her body. She was so embarrassed that she wanted to dig a hole and bury herself. "I can be even more perverted." Ning Fan did not hide the lust in his eyes. He turned around and suppressed it again. On the second day, Ouyang Nuan could not get off the bed. She could not bring little Harry Ball and the 2 little girls out to play. Little Harry Ball looked at Nuanyuan's mother, who was sleeping soundly on the bed with dissatisfaction. Its eyes were filled with resentment. She wanted to go out to play, but Nuanyuan's mother did not want to. She could not go out alone because Nuanyuan's mother did not allow it. Mu Weiliang and Zi Li quietly lifted a corner of Ouyang Nuan's brocade quilt. When they saw the red marks all over Ouyang Nuan's body, the 2 little girls blushed shamelessly. Zi Li was a member of the demon race. The cultivators of the demon race were very open-minded. Even a little girl could understand the meaning of these red marks. How could she not understand the mating between beasts? She was the dignified Nyeli, a giant among demons. Mu Weiliang did not understand the meaning of the red marks, but she still blushed. Her originally blank memories suddenly became a little more. The extra memories were the night she had with Ning Fan when she was a female corpse. "Little Zizi, I think I was also bitten by the little butterfly like this before." Mu Weiliang said with uncertainty. "It's true. I'm so envious of you. You actually mated with Master before." Zi Li's small face was filled with envy. Forgive her for only knowing the meaning of the word mating. She was a demon. In her memory, this kind of behavior was called mating. "It was very painful, even though I couldn't feel any pain at that time," Mu Weiliang said with a hint of sadness. "I'm still so envious of you. I also want to mate with Master and give birth to a bunch of little Fu." Zi Li's face was still filled with envy. Before she could say the word Fu, the evil mark acted on its own, causing her to be unable to say the word. "What are you envious of? Since you want to do that, I will bring you there. Let's go. Big Sister Liang will bring you to find the little butterfly and ask you to mate with her." Mu Weiliang held Zili's hand and walked towards the front yard. Ning Fan sat alone on a stone bench with a cup of wine in his hand. Under the night sky and the starlight, the petals on the tree fell with the wind. The scenery was very beautiful, but Ning Fan did not have the mood to appreciate it. He just quietly looked at the wine in his cup. He realized that until today, the wine that he personally brewed had gradually integrated a trace of Tao accumulation into it. That Tao accumulation was obsession. His Tao could already be brewed into wine. After finishing the wine in his cup in one gulp, the Tao accumulation in the wine melted in his mouth and turned into a hot stream. Ning Fan's magic power did not increase, but his Tao power became more solid. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly. Before he could swallow the wine, the two little girls had already run towards him. Mu Weiliang's words made Ning Fan choke on his saliva. "Little butterfly. Little ZZ wants to mate with you. Quickly bite her and mate with her." Cough cough. Ning Fan choked on the wine and coughed to remember it. Only then did he manage to regulate his breath. Then he looked at Mu Weiliang and Zili speechlessly. He had only heard of people begging for a relationship but never for mating. He reached out his hand and touched Mu Weiliang's forehead worriedly. He was afraid that this little girl was sick. That was why she was talking nonsense here. "Don't touch me. I don't plan to mate with you for the time being. I haven't grown up yet." When Mu Weiliang recalled the erotic memories in her mind, her face flushed red. "Who taught you this word?" Ning Fan was speechless. "Little ZZ." Mu Weiliang gave Zili up weakly. "Master, Zili really wants to mate with you. My clan has been annihilated. If we mate with each other, we will definitely give birth to a lot of fu. For the prosperity of my clan, we must mate." Zili vowed solemnly with a face full of expectation. Unfortunately, she could not say the word leave no matter what. Ning Fan reached out his hand again and touched Zili's forehead. He suspected that Zili had become stupid because of her illness. Why was she talking nonsense? In the end, Ning Fan did not mate with Zili. Naturally, he did not mate with Mu Weiliang either. He gave each of them a cup of wine and made them drunk. Then he coaxed them to sleep. In the darkness of the night, Ning Fan was the only one who was comprehending the Tao under the Big Dipper. The little furball, on the other hand, wandered around the courtyard in boredom. Time flowed like water. In the blink of an eye, another 10 years had passed. The Tao essence of the wine that Ning Fan brewed became thicker and thicker. Gradually, the Tao essence had already fused with the wine and it was hard to sense it anymore. Ning Fan knew that at this moment, he had already achieved his Tao. He had entered the blood world once and coincidentally, he had delivered 30 Liberation Corps pills to Ning Fan. Among the 30 pills, 17 of them had been tampered with. The rest of them were untouched. Ning Fan only kept 13 Liberation Corps pills. He secretly destroyed the pills that had been tampered with, just like the 100 tufts of 1 million years old spiritual herbs in the past. It had been 50 years since he entered the blood world. 50 years of peace had made Ning Fan forget about killing. There was only the Tao in his heart. Life and death were already complete and he had achieved his Tao. What's left is to try his best to become an immortal. After consuming the body refinement pills one by one, Ning Fan's ancient devil cultivation base had already reached the peak of the revered devil realm. The strength of his physical body was comparable to that of an immortal body cultivator. After refining the 1 million years old spiritual herbs, the 8th petal of the 3 flowers bloomed. Half of the 9th petal had also turned leaden. The 3 flowers at once prominence was enough to defend against an ordinary mid-ghost profound realm attack. All the immortal soul grass had been fed to Mu Weiliang. At this moment, she had already grown to look like a 15-year-old girl. Zili also looked like she was 14 years old. After 50 years of peace and enlightenment, Ning Fan officially went into seclusion and began to break through to the second step of Tao. The 3 ladies and 1 beast no longer went out. They stayed in the courtyard all day to protect Ning Fan. After consuming all the Liberation Corps pills, Ning Fan's body began to decay bit by bit. Then he consumed the immortal bestowal pill and displayed the flame-returning immortal cultivation technique that old devil taught him to increase his chances of becoming an immortal. When both his magic body and sense reached the peak of the first step, his chances of becoming an immortal would increase by 5%. The immortal bestowal pill could increase his chances by 5%, while the flame-returning immortal cultivation technique could also increase his chances by 5%. When the Tao of life and death is attained to the perfection stage, it could increase his chances of becoming an immortal by 10%. When the Tao is upheld, it could increase his chances of becoming an immortal by 20%. When his magic power exceeded the upper limit by so much, it could at least increase his chances of becoming an immortal by 20%. The blood pond increased his chances by 15%. When he stripped the immortal seed in the past, it would decrease his chances by 5%. In total, Ning Fan had at least a 75% chance of breaking through the bottleneck of becoming an immortal in one go. Of course, if he uses the corpse devil body of the third transformation realm and uses the power of the liberation corpse pill to achieve immortality, his chances of becoming an immortal would be even higher. The entire house was filled with the formation marks of the Liberation Corp's Grand Formation. Ning Fan's body decayed more and more, but his qi became stronger and stronger. In his mind, he recalled the scenes of slaughter and the hardships he went through along the way. All the slaughters condensed in his heart bit by bit and eventually turned into the Tao in his heart. Stubbornness. His qi was still getting stronger. The breakthrough to the second step is imminent. Ning Fan's body was drenched in blood and his corpse was in a serious state. However, his eyes were as stubborn as a devil. He had absolute confidence that no one could stop him from attaining the second step within a month. Rumble. His stubbornness and his sense seemed to be resonating with the Big Dipper. A clap of thunder pierced through the night sky. Then, all 7 stars of the Big Dipper shone with starlight, enveloping the entire Willow City. The starlight turned into the shadow of a massive mountain that floated above the city. A strange phenomenon descended from the heavens. The strange phenomenon of the mountain spread across the entire blood world at a terrifying speed. At this moment, Shadi's eyes flashed with satisfaction in the Broken Army Star Palace. At this moment, the 8 life immortals of the blood world were shocked. At the same time, in a certain demon cave in the depths of the Blue Sea, the eyes of the 9 demon immortals who participated in the demon banquet were filled with shock. Then greed filled their faces. The strange phenomenon of the Tao Mountain. In the 100,000 countries, another cultivator is going to ascend the Tao Mountain and break the life-breaking realm to become an immortal. Looking at the location of this strange phenomenon, the immortal seems to be very close to our Blue Sea. Kill this man and devour his shadow of the Tao Mountain. Our cultivation base will certainly improve greatly. Let's go. The 9 of us will attack together and kill this man. After that, we will divide his shadow of the Tao Mountain equally. The 9 demon immortals burst into laughter. Each of them displayed their abilities and flew out of the water. Stepping on the waves, they headed towards the Ling Wu country. Among the 9 of them, there was an early ghost profound realm cultivator, while the other 8 were at the human profound realm. When the 9 demon immortals were heading towards the Ling Wu country, the 8 cultivators of the Slaughter Palace who were guarding the 100,000 countries also rushed towards the place in a frenzy. Shadi watched everything quietly. He did not have the intention to take action. He knew that the 9 demon immortals were not enough to stop Ning Fan from becoming an immortal. At this moment, the entire Willow City and even the Ling Wu country were in shock. The overall strength of the cultivators of the Ling Wu country was not strong. However, as cultivators of the blood world, none of them were fools. Everyone understood the meaning of the strange phenomenon of the Tao Mountain. The strange phenomenon of the Tao Mountain was the phenomenon of becoming an immortal. If a person ascends the Tao Mountain, he would be able to become an immortal. Everyone understood that there was an expert in the Ling Wu country who was trying to break through the bottleneck of the immortal realm. No one knew who the old monster who broke through to the immortal realm was. Renli wore a black robe. His face was cold and stern. He stood in the sky and looked at the strange phenomenon in the sky. His eyes were filled with astonishment. City Lord, this strange phenomenon. Could it be the Dao Mountain phenomenon? In the Willow City, countless vein-opening realm cultivators raised their heads and asked, "Yes. Is an immortal going to appear in our Ling Wu country? I wonder which senior actually became an immortal in our Ling Wu country." Countless cultivators exclaimed. "I don't know. Maybe it is." Ren Li's eyes couldn't help but look towards the south of the city. He then shook his head and mocked himself. "No, it shouldn't be Big Brother. Big Brother is indeed very strong, but he shouldn't be this strong." Before his voice faded, Ren Li's eyes suddenly changed. He looked at the direction of the blue sea in disbelief. On the surface of the blue sea, 9 extremely terrifying rays of light separated from the sea. The speed of the rays of light was beyond Ren Li's imagination. The 9 rays of light converged and turned into 9 ferocious demon immortals. The leader was a ghost mystic demon immortal with a black dragon head. Under the ferocious aura of the 9 demon immortals, all the harmonious spirit experts including Ren Li fell from the sky, unable to fly. Some of the cultivators who often went out to sea to hunt beasts recognized the origin of the 9 demon immortals. Black Dragon Head. He is the Black Flame Heavenly Monarch. The 8 demon immortals behind him are all ferocious beasts of the blue sea. I thought the ferocious beasts of the blue sea couldn't leave the blue sea without permission. Why did they suddenly appear in my Willow City? When the cultivators of Willow City were extremely nervous, another 8 rays of light arrived from afar. They were the figures of 8 blood-robed old men. The leading ghost mystic old man took a step forward and looked at the black dragon demon immortal coldly. "Black Flame, return to the blue sea in 10 breaths' time, and I will spare your life." "Ah, Oldemo, don't be so arrogant. This heavenly monarch has recently obtained a treasure. With this treasure, you may not be my opponent. Quick." The black dragon demon immortal sneered and suddenly took out a golden bracelet. With a flash of golden light, the bracelet turned into 8 rays of golden light and shot towards the 8 blood-robed life immortals. Among the 8 of them, only the life immortal with the surname Mo was an early ghost mystic expert. The rest were human mystic experts. Seeing the fierce golden light, the life immortal with the surname Mo didn't dare to be careless. He took out a blood-red sword light and slashed at the golden light. The remaining 7 also took out their magical treasures and faced the golden light. The black dragon life immortal's eyes flashed with disdain. He changed his hand seals and chanted an incantation silently. The power of the golden light increased by 30% out of nowhere. After a few booming sounds, the magical treasures of the 8 blood-robed life immortals were all destroyed. The expressions of the life immortal with the surname Mo and the others changed drastically. The power of the black dragon life immortal's golden bracelet was really terrifying. Seeing that his attack was successful, the black dragon life immortal laughed heartily and took out the golden bracelet again. This time, the golden bracelet divided into 9 rays of golden light. 8 of them attacked the 8 blood-robed life immortals at the same time. As for the 9th ray of golden light, it went straight towards Ning Fan's mansion. He wanted to take advantage of the critical moment when Ning Fan was about to break through to the life immortal realm to kill him and devour his shadow of the Dao Mountain. Not good. The blood world has finally given birth to another life immortal realm. I can't let him die under the attack of this golden light. Just as the old man with the surname Mo was about to block the golden light, the 9 rays of golden light that the golden bracelet had transformed into suddenly shattered without any warning. Then, the baleful chi and blood-red light instantly swept across the entire Willow City. Within the blood-red light, a ray of fiery light suddenly flashed. At the next moment, a white-robed young man appeared out of nowhere at the peak of the Dao Mountain's shadow, which was completely empty in the night sky. The chi of that white-robed young man was gradually stabilizing at the early human profound realm. Even though his cultivation base was only at the early human profound realm, his magic power was comparable to the peak human profound realm. The white-robed young man raised his hand and took out a ball of milky white light. Then he swallowed it in one go. With the aura force of the Tao Mountain, the young man only needed a moment to refine the white light ball, which would normally take him a few years to refine. At the next moment, the young man's chi skyrocketed. First, he broke through the mid-human profound realm and then the late-human profound realm. Finally, his cultivation base stopped at the peak human profound realm. Even though his cultivation base was at the peak human profound realm, his magic power was far stronger than cultivators at the same level as him. It was comparable to a mid-ghost profound realm cultivator. How dare you stop me from becoming an immortal? You're courting death. The white-robed young man's words were filled with terrifying killing intent, causing the expressions of the 9 demon immortals, including the black dragon demon immortal, to change drastically. Impossible. This person has clearly just broken through to the immortal realm. However, he broke through to the peak human profound realm in an instant with the help of the immense power of the Joss flames. Where did he get so much Joss flame power? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.